got a few words for Dave Roberts, the manager of the LA Dodgers.
Y'all need to be fired.
He needs to be fired for robbing Blake Snell of what could have been one of those legendary career moments last night against the Brewers. He was slaying them.
Y'all need to be fired.
Picking them up, putting them down. Just going roughshod all over that Brewers lineup. And Dave Roberts, for no apparent reason, chooses to pull Blake Snell out of the game. He was absolutely mowing them down. 8 innings, gave up 1 hit, struck out 10. He was cooking. And Dave Roberts took him out of the game. Welcome into Wire to Wire. He is Cole Bryson. My name is Diesel, and you Tolos watching on the stream. By God, we appreciate you being there and being a part of the show every single day. Chop it up with the other Tolos, because now all of your comments show up on the screen, which is awesome. I know a lot of our Tolos, Cole, they will just sit at home and put us up on their big screen on YouTube and just watch the show that way.
That's truly turning it on and leaving it on, right?
I love it when you Tolos tell us that you do those kinds of things. But man, what a decision that almost came back to bite Dave Roberts in the ass last night. How bad would that have been if he takes a guy that was damn near perfect through 8 innings of that game, chooses to take him out, and then could have ended up losing the game? Now, the Brewers only put up 1 on the board. The Dodgers won the game. That's what matters. But man, it was close.
Well, it is what matters. The Dodgers were really, really good last night, in large part due to what you just said, Blake Snell. Now, I watched the game because obviously having it as part of my Prize Picks lineup, I was heavily invested. So
good plug.
Right. So obviously that game went down to the wire because of not only the Los Angeles Dodgers elite pitching last night and Blake Snell, but also Milwaukee was really good last night as well. So Freddie Freeman is like the hero up until the point that Dave Roberts decided to do what Dave Roberts did. Now, let me even back up before that. If any of you Tolos were watching, the almost grand slam was probably the wildest play I have ever seen happen in baseball, just in terms of what could have happened, Diesel. Bases loaded for the Dodgers early in the game. The ball is hit off of the top of the wall, hits the glove, bounces back in. They thought it was enough for a home run, or for a grand slam, but it was not. It was a weird, wacky type play, and the Dodgers were that close. And for those of you not watching, they were so close, Diesel, to going up 4-0 early in that game, and that game could have been a lot different. But the decision to pull Blake Snell for Roki Sasaki, I have no idea. I can't figure it out. Blake Snell was incredible. I was watching it with a few buddies last night, and at that point, we saw that the camera, Diesel, switched to the bullpen, and you saw Sasaki warming up, and you're thinking, there's just no way. There's no way Dave Roberts, after what Blake Snell's done, is going to pull Snell for Sasaki, and guess what he did? And to your point, it almost cost him. It almost did.
He had thrown, I saw the number earlier today, but I didn't write it down. I think 103 pitches Blake Snell had thrown at that point in the game. Like, what's wrong with 110? What's wrong with 115, 120? Right? I mean, it's not like the Brewers were finally starting to touch him and starting to get all over the field, right? It's not like he was put into bad situations. He was still throwing the ball really well, had great velocity, had great command, great control, and the Brewers couldn't hit him.
You know how many hits he allowed last night?
One.
Why
do you pull that guy?
10 Ks.
Come on. I think managers manage scared, right? Analytics have done some great things for sports, for baseball, but they also put these managers in a position where they don't trust their instincts anymore. They don't trust their gut anymore. And your gut says, let Blake Snell go out there and do it. By God, he's earned the right to try to close this game out in 9 innings. He's earned the right to go a complete game, But because the analytics say that once a pitcher gets to 100 pitches, his velocity starts to fall off, you pull him out of the game and you rob him of what could have been an amazing career triumphant moment.
It was 103, to your point, 103 pitches. He's been locked in this postseason. By the way, at 0.86 ERA, which is nuts. He's averaged 7 innings pitched per game, a .52 whip across 21 innings. Snell has just let up 5 hits and 2 earned runs. Think about that. That's absolutely insane. And Blake Snell last night, to your point, was robbed. He was robbed of an incredible moment. And Dave Roberts, shame on him. Luckily, when you look at what happened late in that game, Treenan came in and saved him. But you're talking about these are the bases were loaded. 9th inning, bottom of the 9th, or top of the 9th, rather, Milwaukee had an opportunity to bust that thing wide open. The go-ahead runner was at the plate. Then they get 2 on, and all of a sudden you're sitting there thinking, this is not good. I was watching it on my laptop because I had Sunday night or Monday Night Football on one TV and the other Monday Night Football game on another TV. So I was locked in. And by the way, random side note, I told a buddy of mine this morning, Diesel, I think last night might have been one of the greatest random Monday nights of sports in a long, long time. Just 3 really good games between baseball, the 2 Monday night games. I mean, it couldn't get better for a Monday.
Here's the problem. I don't know. I mean, I saw a picture of your setup. I know how you were watching games. You had the TV on.
Yeah.
You had your laptop on, and you had another screen. It was like an iPad or something.
I had a computer.
Okay. You were watching on multiple screens, and a lot of people don't do that. Most casuals, and that's what all these networks are trying to chase. That's what all these sports are trying to chase. You're trying to chase the casuals. The hardcores are going to do what you did and have up multiple screens, but the casuals are not going to do that. Those casuals make up a large number of people. And I just beg the question, what is Major League Baseball doing? The hell do you think you're doing scheduling a game up against double Monday Night Football? You're not going to win. You're not going to get the viewership numbers that you think you're going to get. It just baffles my mind why they continue to do that. How many times have we talked about on this show and on this station over the years just how dumb it is to try to go head-to-head with the NFL? You're not going to win.
I don't know. I agree that you're never going to win going head-to-head. I don't know that Major League Baseball has a choice, though, in the postseason.
Why not? They could have scheduled this game for today.
Well, you've got the Dodgers. You've got Game 2 today. You've got Game 2 tonight at 8 o'clock. So the only game tonight, you don't have Blue Jays tonight. You have Game 2 of that game last night tonight. And I think in the regular season, there are so many games, it's hard. I think baseball is to the point, Diesel, where they're just content with it. They know they're not going to go head to head against, NFL, especially to your point, 2 Monday night games. But I will say I normally will go multi-view. However, when I'm really, really focused, Diesel, I have to go with different TVs because multi-view, when you put it in multi-view, that's fine. But you can not really – I've talked about this, but you really can't focus on the game like you want because the screens become so small at that point.
They do, and your eye just kind of jumps around all over the place. Yep. And, you've got it on screen, but you kind of have to notice when something happens and hurry up and put the little cursor on that screen so you can hear the audio from that. Like, I know they'll get you back with replay after the fact.
But real quick side note, last night – really tempted me to have another flat screen mounted on my living room wall.
Such a bro cave.
I think I'm seriously considering it now because I have like an 85 inch.
Yeah.
But then I would love like a 50 or a 65 or a 75 underneath it. I mean, I've got a serious issue.
Do you have the bandwidth for that?
I think so.
I assume you're on wireless internet now.
Yeah.
Here's how you pull this off, Cole. You have an 85-inch TV, right? That means you divide that 85. I know this isn't exact, okay? But you divide that 85 inches by 3. You could align 3 27-inch TVs underneath
that'd be good.
Big screen TV.
That'd be good,
so
too.
You could have the one big one and then 3 little ones below it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way to do it. That's the way to pull it off.
Because last night I had to take the one from my bedroom, lay it against the wall, which is fine. But I'm just sitting there thinking, man, if I'm going to do something, I need to do it right. And I don't like I think YouTube TV multi-view is great for some people. But again, for me, if you've got a 85-inch TV and you're watching 4 screens at once, you're watching, what, a 30-something inch TV at that point or less? So I don't enjoy watching a game. I guess that's why I like a sports bar better, because the screens are still big. I want big screens.
Well,
and I want multiple.
You know that now you can buy a TV up to 120 inches.
Yes, I've
That's
heard.
like your wall. That's your entire wall. And that's not a projector, right? Up until now, you had to have a projector to be able to pull off sizes that big, but you can get them. It's crazy to me.
Yeah.
That now, like, Samsung has a 98-inch TV that's $1,800. Let's see. There's a 100-inch Hisense, $1,700. There's something here that claims to be 132 inches. That's almost $4,000. Think about this.
That's
though.
Ridiculous.
We were spending that kind of money when flat screens first came out,
and now they're cheaper.
Spending that on 720s.
Yeah, now they're a lot cheaper. You know what my problem was last night? My buddies were making fun of me. So I have 2 Rokus, right? 2 Roku remotes.
Yep.
And the problem is that I had last night is when I would click one, it would do it for both. So when you got to get like an Amazon TV. Saying I took the bedroom TV into the living room, turned it on, and when I turned it on, I turned the big one off. And then when I turned it off, I turned the other one on. And then I'm trying to change the volume. That's the only trick. I've got 2 Roku remotes right there, plus a laptop watching the Dodgers. It's a third world problem, right?
Texter says Cole likes his TVs like he likes his women, big and multiple. Another texter says, Cole,
terrible.
How come nobody talks about fantasy football, or am I missing it? We talk about real sports on this show. We
have the leagues. We just don't talk about much. I'm not really.
We talk about football, baseball. We don't talk wrestling because it's not a real sport. We don't talk about fantasy football. You know why? Because it's not a real sport.
And I've done a terrible job this season. I've had like 3 or 4.
Oh, so you're saying if you were good, if you were crushing it, you'd be talking about
it. When I say terrible job, I mean terrible job even being invested. I've been slack. I've been really slack.
Puppy Monkey Baby in the house, one of the top 5 names in the Upset Picks Challenge. I'm glad that you mentioned that because coming up later on in the show, we will, of course, be sharing the absolute latest standings for the Upset Picks Challenge. I can tell you right now.
I'm sorry, what are we talking about? The gummy worm pizza?
I have no idea.
What's he talking about?
No clue.
How many slices of gummy worm pizza did you guys eat?
What are you talking about? Where did that come from?
Were we supposed to have gummy worm pizza today? Did we have pizza?
No. What is this? I know what he's talking about. He's talking about that internal email that came out from Roy this morning. Roy, our promotions manager, who, if you ever win prizes, you get emails from Roy. That's the Roy that we're talking about. Somebody brought in pizza to the studios earlier today.
Oh.
And I guess.
So how's he getting our emails?
I guess one of them, maybe Rob talked about it. Rob must have talked about it on the show this morning because Roy sent out that email earlier today saying, hey, come to the break room and get free pizza. But you and I are never here in the building. We don't ever get to partake in that kind of stuff.
No. The email was sent at 10:45.
The call is coming from inside the house.
Oh, God. He's hacked our emails.
Did Rob tweet about it or something?
Does Puppy Monkey Baby work here?
Is Rob Puppy Monkey Baby, because we haven't gotten a pick from Rob in a while, or is Lonzo? I like to believe that it's Lonzo.
Oh, he says Lonzo put it out on a video for the Upstate Pulse. No,
that clears it up.
Is there still? We should have went down there and looked.
Hang on, let me put my headset down. I'll go take it. No, I'm kidding.
Here's the email. A spooky sweet lunch is taken care of. Pizza Inn, Sandworm Pizza, downstairs break room.
Yeah.
It's back.
It's from Beetlejuice, the sandworms.
Should we stream this thing live and go see if there's any left? That would be interesting. Pizza is there. I don't know.
Got to go check it out.
I didn't know there was pizza today. Did you?
I'll run down there during the break.
I know.
We'll make Jay Paterno wait.
Jay Paterno. Sorry, Jay. We've got to go see if this sour gummy worm. What do we? Pizza's still in the. Oh my God.
For what it's worth, though, trying to rein this thing in and get back to topic.
Went off the rails. Now I want to go down there.
Tolo Steve is crushing it. He's got 3 in a row. Brandon in Spartanburg has 4 picks in a row. And by God, Dave Mosley hit again.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
No, he did.
Yeah, he did.
This is
Dave
ridiculous.
Mosley has 70 points.
This is
70.
outrageous.
85 won this thing last year. I mean, it's ludicrous how he keeps hitting week after week after week.
How does that happen? I
Sitting
mean,
on a horseshoe, I guess. My only other explanation is that he is Marty McFly.
And Bill Bender, didn't Bill Bender offer to hire that guy?
Should have.
Didn't I think he offered to hire who was it? Dave.
Mosley.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. I'm going to, in a minute, go down and check for the Tolos.
Awesome.
Once we get done with this, live on the air.
But
I'm interested about this pizza now.
So I know that we're going to take off because we got Jay coming on here in just a couple of minutes. But you don't go against the NFL. You don't go against their programming. You're not going to win. You gotta try to chase those casuals, and I just think it's a bad idea. It's a bad look to do that. So let's go ahead and run off to
here, Cole.
Hold on. Real quick.
Okay. Oh, you're going?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. Stay here.
You better
2 minutes.
run. Don't forget your keys because I can't come and let
That's
you.
true. That's true.
Let you
Hold on one
back
second.
into the building.
Good point. Good point. Good
Cole.
point.
Yeah, Cole is headed
Live
down
on the
to
air.
the break room
Live
to
on
find
air.
out. Yeah, to see if
Let's
we
see.
have any more of this sandworm pizza. Bring me a slice if you come back.
Is that what it's called?
I guess.
Right.
You said it was from where?
Pizza Inn, I believe.
Pizza
think we're-
Inn.
Yeah, here we go. Let's see. You ready? All right,
Oh,
we're told. Let's see.
this
Sandworm.
is the height of anticipation.
This is the best radio ever.
Pat Kraft says,
Isn't it?
"Is this the Pat McAfee skit?"
Let's see. Live on air. Hey, John, say hey.
Hey,
You're live on air, by the way.
like who's on it?
That's the
Oh,
that's the
here we
John
go.
who is in our studios a lot of times
Here you go.
operating. All
That's not sandworm.
right, that's
That's-
cheese pizza, pepperoni pizza, works.
Whoa.
Sandworm pizza. Look at that.
Look
Look
at
at
it.
that, Tolos. Does that look appetizing?
Do you want some?
I do.
All right. I'm going to bring some.
Yeah.
What the heck is sandworm pizza?
I'll take an array. So I don't want.
Look,
I don't
one
want
more
to
time.
eat sandworm pizza.
Diesel, one more time, live on the air. Look at this.
Mm-hmm.
That is weird.
Can
you
you
gonna
see
get
that?
a bite right now, live on the air, Cole? That's just ruined his diet. Ruining Cole's diet.
Hey, that's actually really, really good.
Is it
What
all
is
sweet
that?
like frosting?
Like jelly beans.
Oh, you're going to want more than one. I'm going to get you 2.
Okay.
Look at that. Say bye,
There
John.
you go.
Notice I said say bye, not hey. All right.
Tolos, we're going to do another review a little bit later on in the show. We have to get out to break because we
We
have
have to.
Jay Paterno coming up in the very next segment.
He'll understand, though. He'll understand.
A little bit wonky, Tolos. I am going to take us off to break, run around to the other side of the board, and take us off to our commercial break on the air. So we'll get back and have on Jay Paterno from the board of directors for Penn State next.
Well, Tolos, we're keeping the conversation going right here on the Fan Upstate as we welcome in for the second time on these airwaves, Jay Paterno, member of the Penn State Board of Trustees and son of Penn State legend Joe Paterno, to comment on Penn State, the firing of James Franklin, and a little bit more. Jay, as always, love talking to you, man. Appreciate your time this afternoon. Want to start very big picture for those out there listening today in the great state of South Carolina. When it comes to Penn State, James Franklin, they know the name Paterno. With you being in your position, can you go into a little bit of detail of what your current position is for those that don't know, and how much you have to do with obviously Penn State athletics now going forward in your current position?
Well, I coached for 22 years of college football, and I've since I'm on the board of trustees at Penn State. So we're not directly involved in the hiring and firing of coaches, nor should we be, but certainly involved in a lot of the decisions that go into the athletic department. So still at every game. I do a TV show up here called Nittany Game Week that covers Penn State every week. So very, very, very attuned into what's happening.
Jay, what was the split of voices from fans and boosters and the people that you've talked to that led up to the ultimate decision to let James Franklin go? I mean, obviously, we know his record against top 10 and top 25 teams wasn't stellar. It wasn't where Penn State fans want him to be. But you look at 35 plus wins over 3 years, that's nothing to sneeze at. And there's no guarantee whoever you hire gets you back to that exact same spot. So kind of where was the fan base as far as split of fans that wanted to keep him around and fans that wanted him gone?
I don't know if I can give you a statistical number, but we're playing Oregon, number 3 in the country. Third quarter, late third quarter, early fourth quarter, we fall behind 17-3, and the student section start chanting "Fire Franklin," almost in unison. And you're sitting there going, we're in the middle of a game, a top 5, top 10 game, and we're done with plenty of time. We come back, we tie the game, we go to overtime, and everybody's all in again, and then we lose the game and they start again. We had a college hockey game here last week on Thursday night, and the other team scores a goal, and our fans start chanting "Fire Franklin." So it became this overwhelming thing. Now, that doesn't mean it's fair or it's earned or it's deserved, because I don't think it necessarily was. But as you mentioned, 35 wins the previous 3 years, and going 3-3, you start to say, well, okay, well, I would think a guy that's won 35 games has earned the benefit of the doubt. But administrators and people in this day and age, they're reading the tea leaves all the time, and they're reading social media and getting Stratcom people to say X number of mentions are positive, negative, whatever, and they start to run their organizations based on that. And I don't think that's necessarily the way to be successful.
Jay, how much do you think the noise that you just talked about went into the actual firing of James Franklin?
Well, I think it had something to do with it. I don't think there's any question. Internally, I couldn't really tell you what the team's mentality was like or whatever it may be. But, this was a team that got behind Oregon and played hard to get back in it. A team that really came out, didn't start the game off very well against UCLA, was down 20 and got back within a score. So this wasn't a team that had just kind of mailed it in. I think the reality was, despite the expectations in the offseason, this was a team that was, if you look at, there were 3 really close wins last year. They were every bit as close to being 8-4 as they were to being in the national championship game. And some of it is, I think, people overestimated how talented this roster was. It's talented. But, when I looked at, the expectations for what the offensive line would be, the running backs, all that kind of stuff, they were not performing to that level. Coming into the Oregon game, when you look at the non-conference schedule, they were not performing at a very high level. And some of that, that is really ultimately what undid the whole thing.
Talking to Jay Paterno, Penn State Board of Trustees member. Maybe you've heard his last name a time or two. Jay, right now, yesterday, Cole and I were kind of ranking the available jobs in college football. And, it's right now Penn State is in a category of its own. After that, there's a fairly significant drop off. to the other coaches or other teams that are looking for coaches. Back-to-back national championship winning conference, great fan base, great support, big time changes coming to the stadium there. What if, though, another elite job comes open in the coming days and weeks, like a Florida job? A lot of people, Billy Napier is kind of right there on that edge too. Does that affect the speed at which Penn State needs to make a decision, or is Penn State's brand and this opportunity so strong that you feel like you can take your time?
I think the thing that's accelerated this more than anything is the December signing day. So now everybody's afraid that, I got to keep my recruiting class together. So if we're going to make a move, let's make this move now. And then we can get a coach in place that can keep the class that we've got committed here. But the problem is at a place like Penn State or a place like Florida, if that were to come open, the kind of coaches you want to go get are likely at other schools having very successful seasons and who do not necessarily want to walk away from their team when they're in the middle of a potential playoff run or whatever that may be. So that becomes really, really problematic in terms of where we are. And I think part of the reason that this may have happened sooner than later is the idea that let's go grab somebody because Florida made that job may come open and we don't want to be competing with them for this.
That's so interesting, Jay, because ultimately I think you're exactly right. The timing is big, and every decision made, especially at that high of a level, timing's very important. You mentioned keeping the recruiting class together. You mentioned December and that window, that period coming up very soon. How do you believe the ones making this decision will weigh waiting to try to get one of those guys that you talked about that still may be coaching versus the urgency of getting someone in now? And I guess the second part of that question is that interim tag. How important is it for that interim to be able to keep that recruiting class together?
Yeah, I mean, no matter how, when you have the interim tag and you're trying to keep the recruiting class together and having been through it once, you can make all the promises in the world, but at the end of the day, they still want to know who the next coach is going to be.
That's
so
right.
I think there is certainly some pressure to try and get somebody sooner than later. But we'll see how that unfolds.
Jay, can you talk to me about the triggering of the 15-day transfer portal window immediately after a new coach is hired? That rule has changed from where it was before. It was once a coach is fired. Now it's once a coach is hired. It's kind of unprecedented, right? This is one of the first major openings since that rule was changed. How does that affect things? How are you guys kind of looking at how that will play out?
Well, I think that's going to impact it greatly. I mean, the first thing is that a coach got to do is not only keep the recruiting class together, but also figure out who's going to stick around and try and recruit the current team. Because if you bring in a guy who is if you have quarterbacks that aren't mobile, for example, and you're bringing a guy that's going to be running all kinds of spread zone read stuff, they're going to have to try and keep those guys from leaving or tell them, hey, look, you're not going to fit into what we do. So I think those things become important. All the while you have to meet with HR to sign your paperwork, and you got to get your office keys and all these other things and have a press conference. And there's so many things that go into it now. So it becomes really tough to do all those things.
Jay, when you talk about the decision that was made, and by the way, we're joined by Jay Paterno right here on the Fan Upstate. When you talk about the decision that was made over the weekend in the firing and the dismissal of James Franklin, how much of a risk do you think that is? We all know there's a risk involved in hiring a new coach anytime you do so. But when you talk about a guy who, granted, has had some heat on the back end of his career, but when you look at the stability that he brought to Penn State, I mean, it's unprecedented. How much risk do you think was involved for those that were having to push that red button? How would you weigh that risk?
Oh, I think it's a tremendous amount of risk because there's no guarantee in any of this. You may have had conversation with 2 or 3 guys that maybe you think are interested in the job, but until they take it, you don't know what you're going to get. Number one. Number two, everybody wants to fire their coach, but when you sit down and say, well, who do you want to hire? Now, all of a sudden, they're not necessarily, this guy, somebody wants this one, somebody wants that one, somebody wants you to go, dangle $15 million a year in front of a guy who's retired like Nick Saban or Urban Meyer and, all those things. And even if you got somebody like Nick Saban, then you still have some fans that say he's too old. He doesn't understand the players these days. He won't be successful. So I mean, it's there is risk in no matter which way you go, and the devil that you know sometimes is, and most times is better than the devil that you don't know.
Jay, you mentioned something there I want to follow up on, maybe already having someone in mind. Do you believe, and I know you can't go into specifics, but do you believe the magnitude of this, with Penn State being one of the larger brands in all of college football, that when you guys make a decision like this to let go of James Franklin, you already have to have some sort of word, some sort of commitment, some sort of back channeling interest that the person that maybe you're interested is the person that you're interested in is interested in your job. Therefore, that gives you a little bit more confidence to be able to kind of rip the Band-Aid off?
Well, I think no matter what, every athletic director who's worth their salt has in their drawer somewhere. I mean, not obviously not in a drawer, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
they've all got short lists. In case if my coach leaves or abruptly quits or says I've had enough, whatever it may be, or gets hit by a bus, whatever it may be, they've got a couple people that they think would be good fits for them. And if you don't have that, then you're probably not doing your job.
yeah.
But there's also, once you have that short list, there are also some other names that'll pop up over the course of a search that you go, oh, I hadn't thought of that guy. I thought of that guy. So, we'll see how it unfolds. But certainly I would think that there was some idea as to who they'd be interested in. Even my dad in his last year, when he knew he was going to retire a year and a half out, he told he met with the AD and met with the president of the university. And they came up with a list of 4 or 5 guys that he would like that they all thought would be appropriate.
Talking to Jay Paterno, part of the board of trustees for Penn State University. Coaches always say the right thing in these situations. I'm thinking of the Matt Rule press conference where he says, some iteration of I'm focused on my school. I'm focused on the team that we have to play this week. Do you ever get, a little quiet chuckle? I know you have to put on the poker face, but a quiet internal chuckle when a guy that your school is reaching out to is saying, quote unquote, all the wrong things to you?
Well, I don't know who we've reached out to, so I can't guess as to who is or isn't being clever. I do know that at one point I was asked by a group of student journalists. There was a rumor that I had interviewed for a job somewhere else, and I had. And the student asked me if I'd interviewed he said, I read somewhere that you may have interviewed at such and such a place. And I said, well, you can't believe everything you read. And that's all I said. And they took that as a no. And I was like, all righty. We've clearly failed our journalism students at Penn State, but I got away with one. And that's kind of how you watch these things. And, the interesting thing is it's as much what they don't say as what they do say.
So with that being said, I know you may not can comment in depth on this, but if the decision were left up to Jay Paterno, who do you look at as a good fit for Penn State?
I don't even want to go there. I want someone who understands what this place is about, what it means academically, what we want our kids to do academically, what our fan base expects. We want that blue-collar, hardworking mentality that's always been successful here. Because, look, if I mention somebody, somebody's going to say a trustee at Penn State mentioned these 3 guys, and now they're going to get asked at this press conference. And some of these guys I know, some of them, and then all of a sudden I'll get a call like, hey, what'd you put me in that bind for? So, so I'll leave it at that.
I knew you wouldn't be able to. I just thought I'd ask anyways.
Oh, you got to ask. Wouldn't be doing your job if you didn't ask. And now that you know my trade secret of avoiding answering questions, then you know what I just did there.
Jay, how do you feel about, the ability of the interim coaching staff's ability to keep a large portion of this roster together? You alluded to it earlier, a lot of talent on this team, a top 5 team at one point in this season. How much of that do you think you're going to be able to retain? Maybe it's too early to answer that question. And how much of a selling point is that to whoever may be coming in after Coach Franklin?
I think they'll do a good job. Terry Smith, who's the interim coach, is a guy I played with at Penn State years ago. He's been around a long time. He's been, I think, one of the few guys that's been here since James got hired. I think they'll do a good job, some of those guys in that staff. But it becomes difficult because while you're trying to retain the roster, you also have to start thinking about where am I going to go next, because I may not have a job here. But I think they'll do a good job. And I think, unfortunately for them, the really hard part of the schedule is coming up. with 6 games, 4 of them on the road. They go to Iowa this week. They have an off week. They go to Ohio State the next week. They have Indiana after that. And then they've got at Michigan State, Nebraska, and at Rutgers. So there is some tough. There are no give me putts left on this schedule.
Fans will always focus on the winning percentage against the top 10 teams at institutions like Penn State. But can you give us some tangible ways in which the program is better off after James Franklin had his tenure there?
Well, I think when he first got here, there were some real challenges. And I think this team has had a lot of success. People are used to that kind of success. And I think that's the baseline now. The baseline will be that, 10-win season, 11-win seasons. You're going to have some 9-win seasons sprinkled in there because that's just the reality of the game. But I think that we're back to where people, the fact that people are mad that we're not doing certain things is a good sign. Good sign. So
Jay,
we'll look forward to see what happens.
Before we let you go, you mentioned the journalism class that puts you on the spot. I mean, I guess I'll keep it up and continue to put you on the spot here. I mean, you did coach for 17 years. Yeah. Did you have a 0.00001% interest at all? I mean, you coached at Penn State. You're a Penn State
guy. Oh, you mean
guy.
now?
Yeah.
Oh, look, if they called me tomorrow and said we really need you because everybody else turned it down, yeah, I'd go do it. The only job right now I would go seek is manager of the Red Sox. I think that looks like a cool gig.
Jay, you're the best.
But you did ask, so I did give you an honest answer on that one.
Hey, Jay, would you have pulled Blake Snell going into the 9th last night?
No. I literally said, "What are they doing?"
Yeah, me too.
Because the last pitch he threw, I went, "What was that?" Yeah, definitely would not have pulled them. So,
Jay,
you guys have a good one, man.
You too, man. Appreciate you as always. Jay Paterno right here on the Fan Upstate. Really good stuff there on Penn State, James Franklin, and, man, just the entire not the search process, but what I guess the message is. And Diesel, there's so much to unpack from that interview. Mm-hmm. I know we have Daily Wires coming up, but my gosh, a lot to unpack from that and what he said. And I did kind of put him in a tough spot asking who he would think would, who he thought would be an ideal fit. But I also, when he said, I'm not going to get into that, he also continued to talk, and he said a Penn State guy who understands what it means to, win at Penn State, and that's Matt Rule.
That is Matt Rule.
I don't know. Again, not reading too much into it, but and then the whole part about contacting somebody before you fire James Franklin, like, that's a huge part of it, man. Huge part of it.
Yeah, it's weird how they do it. It's kind of like you want to know that the girl's going to say yes when you ask her to the dance before you actually ask her. So you ask her friend, ask that friend if she would go with you to the dance. And then if she says no, then, well, you never actually asked in the first place. But a fascinating conversation with Jay Paterno, Board of Trustees at Penn State. He said he's not involved in the hiring process, but he will definitely be involved in the payment process.
That's right.
That's the last line of defense before those final decisions are made. Let's do our daily whip around of what's going on outside of the upstate sports world in a segment we call our Daily Wires next. So much going on in the sports world, Cole. Not enough time to get to all of it on every single show. So we do this whoop around segment we call our Daily Wires. Here's the buzz in the sports world. Last night on Monday Night Football, the Bills scored on their opening possession in the second half to draw the score to 21-14, but couldn't score again afterwards. Fell to the Falcons 24-14, an embarrassing loss, honestly, for the Buffalo Bills.
And you got to remember, that's the same Falcons team that just lost the Carolina Panthers a couple of weeks ago.
30-0.
Right.
Yeah. The Bills have now lost 2 straight games. They sit at 4-2. Think about this, Cole. Their 4 wins, as much as we have gassed up the Buffalo Bills, their 4 wins have come against teams with a combined 3-21 record.
It's true. Their defense is not good. And think about it like this: transitive property. The transitive property tells you that because the Falcons beat the Bills and the Panthers beat the Falcons next week, not this coming weekend, but the following weekend, the Panthers are going to make light work of Buffalo when they come to Charlotte.
We'll see. I would expect that stadium to be rocking in that game. Also last night on Monday Night Football, the Bears topped the Commanders on a game-winning 38-yard walk-off field goal off the foot of Jake Moody. What's fun about Jake is he had been on the Bears active roster for exactly 7 hours when he made that kick.
It's not bad. And by the way, Jaden Daniels last night, game-sealing drive to go down there and seal the game. Fumbles the ball. It was pouring down rain, but fumbles the ball. The Bears get it. It was a really entertaining game last night. I thought Washington would win. They did, at times kind of bleep the bed a little bit. But the Bears don't look now, but the Bears kind of looked good last night, Diesel.
A little bit of scary news when it comes to the Bears. DJ Moore, he was hospitalized after the game, did not fly back with the team to Chicago, received precautionary medical attention in a local hospital in Washington, D.C. The reason for his hospitalization was not specified at the time, Cole, and I'm looking to see if we can find any kind of updated information as to exactly what it might have been. We'll keep looking on that. Hadn't seen it yet today. If anybody knows, let us know. Moore contributed with 3 catches, 42 yards, and 2 rushes for 10 yards. So not a huge game for DJ Moore, but still a productive game nonetheless. But we will keep looking for an update on that injury. Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel called Tua's comments about a lack of attendance in player-led meetings, quote, misguided, saying that a post-game news conference was not the forum to air those concerns. Here's what Mike said, quote, I think regardless of intent and what was on Tua's mind after the loss as the franchise quarterback, that's not the forum to displace that.
I think he's just salty because he called out leadership. And, we talked about leadership starting at the top with Mike McDaniel. Maybe he didn't like the fact that Tua called people out. Maybe that's what it was more about.
What's funny is I read that in a way that sounds like Mike McDaniel can speak coherently.
Yeah.
But I'd be willing to bet it sounded more like I think regardless of intent. That's how it sounded.
Yeah.
He can't really put together those words. Eagles veteran edge rusher Zadarius Smith announced his retirement from football yesterday, posting on Instagram, quote, I knew this day would come, but now that it's here, I'm feeling so many emotions I never expected. Zadarius finishes his NFL career with 223 solo tackles, 70.5 sacks, and 10 forced fumbles, leaving that Eagles edge rushing room kind of thin.
Most certainly.
Penn State athletic director Pat Kraft acknowledged yesterday that James Franklin's record in big games played a role in firing James, saying, I'm here to win a national championship, and I believe our fans deserve that. If you didn't hear, we had last segment, if you're just now joining the show, last segment we had on Jay Paterno, son of Joe Paterno and Penn State Board of Trustees member. Great interview, worth listening to, worth finding on the app once that goes live. Matt Rule didn't exactly shut down rumors that he might take the Penn State job, saying, this place is elite, talking about Nebraska. Mm-hmm. And I want to be a great father, and I want to be a great college football coach. And so I'm not going to talk about a lot of job openings when they come. Worth noting, Penn State AD Pat Kraft hired Matt Rule at Temple in 2012. So they have a relationship.
Yeah, I think that'll be interesting to see, man. This all of a sudden, this Penn State job opening becomes really intriguing with Matt Rule's name out there.
Cleveland Mayor Justin Bibb and the Haslam Sports Group announced a $100 million agreement between the city of Cleveland and the Cleveland Browns for the construction of a new domed stadium in Brook Park. The funds from HSG will support lakefront transformation and prepare the current stadium site for redevelopment. And last one here for you, Cole, as there's always more and more ways to get different business partners involved in sports. FC Barcelona announced a collaboration with music star Ed Sheeran through their sponsor Spotify. So if you happen to watch a lot of foreign soccer early in the mornings, you might notice Ed Sheeran's play logo on the front of the FC Barcelona jerseys, or kit as they call it, against Real Madrid on October 26th.
I'll throw two more at you as well real quick. The Fan Upstate Player of the Week for Week 7 was announced earlier today. Reddick Langston, quarterback of Malden High School, and we will talk to him tomorrow on the show. And then Diesel, how about this? South Carolina named its Sport and Entertainment Management Department after David and Nicole Tepper in recognition of a $5 million donation from their foundation, South Carolina announced today. So Teppers might not be good at putting together good football teams. However, they're good at donating money, I guess, right?
They got that.
They've got that going for them. A segment titled What We Failed to Mention Yesterday. Mondays are slam-packed, reacting to what happened over the weekend. What Diesel and I failed to mention yesterday, next. There was so much happening yesterday. It was Monday, and on Mondays, Diesel, we talk about things that happened Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, and the show is only 4 hours long, so inevitably we miss a few things here and there, and it is time to do a segment titled What We Failed to Mention Yesterday, the things that we didn't have an opportunity to dive into before we start looking ahead to this weekend, tomorrow and Thursday, and on Friday as well. Several things that we failed to mention. Tolos, if you didn't hear us talk about something that you would like our thoughts on, let us know. The Hub City Spartan Burgers text line is open, 844-326-3663. Phone line's open as well at that exact same number. Again, 844-FAN. FONE.
Feels like we should have a sounder for this segment. Like
What
fans
we
yelling at an
failed to
umpire.
mention.
What are you, blind? How do you miss that?
I like it. I like it a lot. What we failed to mention yesterday, it is happening right now. Let's start with the top 25 AP poll. Diesel, it came out on Sunday. And again, yesterday we were so busy, we didn't have a ton of time to dive in on the AP poll. Top 10 goes as follows. Ohio State 1, Miami 2, Indiana moving up 4 spots to number 3, A&M 4, Ole Miss 5, Bama 6, Texas Tech 7, Oregon moving down 5 spots to number 8, Georgia at number 9, and LSU at number 10. Just kind of focusing on the top 10 right now, Diesel. Any issues? AP getting it right, AP getting it wrong. Obviously, no movement in 1 and 2 because of the Buckeyes and Hurricanes. But other than those two, there was pretty significant movement.
Yeah, and I think they did a good job. Oregon lost to a really good football team. It's kind of that we didn't really know how good Indiana was until
we do now.
You gotta beat somebody for real to show how good you are. Like beating up on the lower end of the Big Ten and beating up on a really weak out of conference schedule. What does that actually mean? Well, now we've seen them do it, right? We've seen them take down Oregon on the road at their house.
Yeah.
A signature win for Curt Cignetti. They deserve every bit of it. Man, it's hard though to not say that maybe Indiana deserved to be the number 2 team.
I was going to say, you could argue that after what happened, they're a top 2 team. That maybe you could argue that Indiana's the best team in the country. Because while Ohio State has been very dominant, Diesel, they looked really good against Illinois this past weekend. Indiana, that was a monstrous win over Oregon on Saturday. You mentioned it. On the road, conference game. Curt Cignetti, I don't think people understand, Diesel, just where this program was 3 years ago. Like this program in Indiana was not relevant 3 years ago. And Curt Cignetti has done a remarkable job moving up 4 spots now to number 3. They're 6-0. Now they're all of a sudden, Diesel, in that we can afford a blemish conversation, that we talked about last week because of their record and who they beat. A&M moving up, have no issue with. Ole Miss moving down 1 spot. That was kind of tricky there with A&M and Ole Miss because Ole Miss didn't look good against who they barely beat Washington State, right? Texas A&M moves up 1 spot. Bama moves up to 6 from 8. Oregon falls to 8. Texas Tech moves up to 7 from 9. Georgia moves up from 10 to 9. And LSU back in the top 10. So, again, you look at the top 10 SEC teams, LSU, Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss, A&M, 5 of the 10, Diesel, from the SEC. I think now that we are, 3/4, I don't know, 3/4 the way, if that's the right term or not, but now that we're through a significant part of the season, I think a lot of the questions that we asked early in those weeks of college football and preseason have now been answered with this top 10. And I don't know that you'll see a ton of movement in this top 10 going forward.
You know where I think they're missing the boat here, they're missing the story, is on Auburn. A team like Auburn that by all rights should be a 1-loss team. You can't know.
And they're not in the top 25.
They're not. They don't even have any votes.
Right.
Like you can't know for a fact that if that touchdown on the fake substitution play against Oklahoma hadn't been called,
Yeah.
or if the correct call had been made and the touchdown not counted, you can't know for a fact that Auburn would have won that game. But you can still, with your eyes, look and see that's a really good football team. And
Sure.
if you just take the 7 points off the board, the score is what the score is. You could say the same thing about the Georgia game. You could take that 10-point swing off the board, and the score is what the score is. So I think Auburn is getting the shaft right now in these rankings. I mean, you're talking about a tie ball game. If the things are flipped, actually, I take that back. You're talking about an Auburn win, a 17-13 win for Auburn, if that call is called correctly. So the win-loss is kind of screwing Auburn, but they deserve to be ranked up there just based on the eye test.
What else we failed to mention yesterday? Let's move on to Ohio State, Diesel, who is the number 1 team in the top 25 AP poll. They have been for some time now. They took down Illinois, looked pretty good doing so. Is Ohio State unbeatable? That's the question I want to ask you and the Tolos real quick on this what we failed to mention segment. Ohio State kind of right now looks like they're in cruise control a little bit, right? Like you look for blemishes. It's kind of hard to find any. I don't know if the cruise control set to 60 or 70, or if it's maybe more to 58 miles an hour, or what it is. They're not like blowing the doors off of teams like they're going 90 miles an hour, but it kind of does feel like the cruise control set, and not in a bad way.
But they're winning convincingly.
They're winning
the
convincingly.
Defense is shutting everybody down. Illinois is the only team that scored in double digits against them. So outside of that, they only gave up 7 against Texas, nothing to Grambling, 9 to Ohio, 6 to Washington, 3 to Minnesota, 16 to Illinois. I mean, the defense is exceptional. They don't have to score 70 points every week to be an impressive team.
That's what I'm saying, man. You almost look at it and think, this team, could they fall? Sure. Is there somebody they could lose to? Sure. But the reality, you're not playing Drew Aller now, right? He's done for the season. You're not playing James Franklin, which might have been a bad thing. You probably wish to play James Franklin with his record against good competition.
Yeah, I think that spread just shrunk because James Franklin's not the coach.
And now Penn State, you look at Ohio State. Penn State's nothing to worry about. What do you have left on your schedule that you have to worry about? Michigan? Because you don't play Oregon, right? Yeah. You might play Oregon in the postseason, but Michigan, Diesel, when you look at the Ohio State schedule, I don't know if they're unbeatable to answer my own question. However, I think the answer to my own question is we're not going to know if they're unbeatable. I mean, they're beating good teams, don't get me wrong, but are they truly being tested by the best teams in the country? I don't think they are.
Oddly enough, you could make, albeit a flimsy one, but an argument that UCLA, outside of Michigan, the final week of the season, UCLA might be the scariest team down the stretch because they literally have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to play loose and free. Nobody expects them to stand a chance, and UCLA has shown they can beat really good teams.
And I think it's funny, Diesel, when you look at Ohio State, we know they're really good. We don't know what their vulnerabilities are, right? Like if they played in the SEC, they'd be playing A&M, Ole Miss, LSU. They might still be elite. We would just have a better idea and understanding of what their vulnerabilities are. We don't know right now. Right. I don't know if Ryan Day and that staff know.
Well, here's a tough job for Ryan Day. He's got to keep these kids focused for 5 straight weeks before they play somebody with a real pulse. Mm-hmm. And that's got to be tough. Like, yeah, on paper.
Who are the next 5 you haven't put up?
I did. Let's see.
I'm sorry. I put you on the spot.
On the road at Wisconsin, sub 500.
Ugh.
Home against Penn State without James Franklin, without their quarterback. On the road at Purdue. Home versus UCLA. Home versus Rutgers. And then on the road at Michigan. So you're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight weeks before you play a ranked team. And I know, Michigan's not ranked right now either, but they're 4-2 and it's Michigan. They don't need any help.
They've beaten Ohio State, 5 in a row now, right? Yeah. And that game's at the Big House.
At the Big House.
That's intriguing, isn't it? I mean, that's so intriguing with Ohio State. I mean, we feel like they're the best team. We just don't know exactly to what extent. And maybe Ryan Day has the best job in the country. Maybe he does. And I know they're not the ACC, but maybe you don't have to go. Maybe not having to go through that gauntlet of the SEC is the best thing for Ryan Day. What else we failed to mention? We talked about Indiana's win over Oregon. That was huge. Where do we kind of view Indiana now, Diesel? I mean, they're ranked third in the country. Kurt Cignetti, do we view him differently after that win? I kind of do, a little bit. I mean, that's a win over Dan Lanning. I view Kurt Cignetti a little bit different. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should have already viewed Kurt Cignetti in this manner and degree that I do now, but I just all of a sudden look at Kurt Cignetti and think that guy's got it going on.
Yeah.
At Indiana.
It's okay, though, to have a little caution, sit back and wait a little bit, let him make him prove it to you more than once. That's okay to be that way. You know, don't do this modern thing where you just
fall
buy
in
into
love.
The hype and say, you
Head
know,
over
he
heels.
is the best coach ever, just to like 3 weeks later have to say, well, okay, maybe he sucks.
Similar situation, though. Same conference. Indiana has Michigan State Saturday, UCLA, Maryland, Penn State, Wisconsin, Purdue. You see any losses there?
No, I don't.
So Indiana's going to go into the conference champion, right? They're going to go into the postseason, Diesel, with no losses.
Right.
And I mean, what team's going to be in a better spot other than Ohio State, assuming they beat Michigan? There won't be a team in the country in a better spot than Indiana. And you know, that conference championship game, I don't know why for a second I drew a blank. I went stupid for a second and thought the Big Ten doesn't have a conference championship game. The Big Ten conference championship game right now looks pretty set in stone, but it'll be interesting to see with Indiana. Real quick, let's look at the text line, 844-326-3663. Texter says, didn't Indiana drop 63 on Illinois, the same team Ohio State just beat? Yeah, they beat them 63-10. So to your point there, the Hoosiers are legit. Tolo Steve says, yes, we are unbeatable this year. Defense is tougher than last year. Go Buckeyes. Buckeye Mike says, really? Is Auburn good? Or the teams they played not as good as you think? Why is Washington not even ranked? Talking about your point, Diesel, with Auburn. Pushing back on the Tigers. They're in the SEC. I mean, they're playing good teams, right?
Auburn, let's see. They have wins over Baylor, Ball State, and South Alabama. Meaningless football. Well, maybe not Baylor. Baylor's not a meaningless win. They beat Baylor 38-10. And Baylor at the moment is 4-2. So they're a good football team. They deserve credit for beating Baylor. I will not stand by and say, allow anybody to say, well, beating a really good Big 12 team is a meaningless game. But they lost to Oklahoma. They got ripped off against Oklahoma. They should have at least tied that game. You take that touchdown off the board, that's a tie ball game. That's anybody's game. They lost by 6 on the road at Texas A&M. And then they had Georgia dead to rights, and Kirby Smart cheated. We know Kirby Smart cheated. We saw it happen. And they got an extra play out of it when they shouldn't have gotten an extra play. I'm just saying, if
the Ohio State quarterback.
Well, no, I'm just saying Auburn is a quality football team.
They are.
They're a quality football team, and to try to pretend like they're not just because the refs are screwing them over, that's a little bit obtuse.
Buckeye Mike says, OMG. Seriously,
OMG.
You're throwing Ole Miss and A&M at us. Come on, when have they ever done anything? Is what Buckeye Mike says. That's who you have propping up the SEC. So, Mike, my point being a minute ago with Ole Miss and A&M, I'm not saying that Ole Miss and A&M would beat Ohio State today on a neutral field. What I am saying, though, Buckeye Mike, is, bear with me, the same conversation we had about Clemson. When they won those national championships, people asked the question, could Clemson have been that dominant winning those 2 national championships, playing for 3+ if they were in the SEC? It's the same theory here. We're not saying Ohio State would lose to Ole Miss, lose to A&M, lose to the Georgias of the world. But what I am saying, I believe when you are Ohio State and you're playing Illinois and Purdue compared to playing Ole Miss, A&M, and LSU, I'm not saying you lose those games. What I am saying is there are probably, Buckeye Mike, probably areas on your team of vulnerability, and we just don't know what those areas are. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We don't know what they are.
And we don't know how much depth they have at Ohio State. We don't know how much depth they have at Indiana and all the other big teams, all the other Big Ten teams that you want to prop up and put on a pedestal. We know that the SEC requires you to have more depth than any other conference, because if your ones go down, all of a sudden now you're staring at 7-5.
I've pissed off the Ohio State fans. The text line is rolling now. Buckeye Mike says it's only 4 in a row, Cole, not 5. I apologize. Apologize for that, Buckeye Mike. Texter from the 921 says, I like the swag that Kurt Signetti has. Just Google him. Love it. That was pretty funny. I win games.
Good
Google
stuff.
me. Tolo Steve says the SEC is a bit stronger, but if you look at the last 3 years, the Big Ten has a stronger conference than the SEC, and Ohio State's gotten through them. The last 3 national championships have come from the Big Ten. Again, I understand that. I think you're missing the point. I understand that the top of the Big Ten has been better than the top of the SEC. My point is the top of the conference is not what tests you week in and week out. Ask South Carolina and this brutal 5-game gauntlet they're going through right now, Diesel. It's the middle where you find out what you truly are. And if you can get through the middle, then you can compete with the teams at the top. That's my point. It has nothing to do with the Big Ten winning 2 national championships in a row with Michigan and Ohio. That's great. Congratulations. It's about time, by the way, Big Ten. But my point is the gauntlet, the middle, going through the middle of the SEC, going to play LSU, this South Carolina 5-game stretch is nothing compared to what Ohio State's playing right now.
Yeah, but you and I both know, and to play devil's advocate here, and I can't believe I'm arguing on behalf of the Big Ten and the Buckeye fans here, the top of the conference ultimately is all that matters, is playing for the national championship. And if the top of the conference in the Big Ten is beating the top of the conference in the SEC, ultimately – I think what they're trying to argue is that depth doesn't matter. That depth of that conference doesn't matter. Sure, you guys can beat each other up and throw rocks at each other all season long and be placed 11th in the 12-team playoff, but those teams that far down the line are not going and winning national championships, because even if you're the 9 seed, 10 seed, 11 seed in the college football playoff, if you have to face the 1 seed Ohio State, you're going to lose.
It's going to be tough. My point is, though, it's easier to get to the top teams when you don't have as tough as a middle part of a middle part of the conference like the SEC does. I'm just saying, ultimately, it's easier to play for a conference championship in the Big Ten than it is in the SEC. I'm not saying Ohio State would lose to any of those teams. I think Ohio State's really good. I do. I think they would handle business in the SEC. But the reality is, you talk about the gauntlet. I just said it a minute ago, and I think I said it backwards by mistake. The 5-game stretch that South Carolina's playing right now, if Ohio State played that 5-game stretch, would they win all 5? Maybe they would. My point is, and I think Solo Steve and Buckeye Mike, what I'm saying is, if they played that 5-game stretch, we would really know who Ohio State is.
So it's interesting you just said it. I'm being intentionally argumentative here.
Yeah.
Okay, just to make this more fun. You said the reality is if they had to face that schedule, they probably wouldn't go 5-0. That's not a reality check. That's a supposition. That's what I think might happen if this scenario were to play out. The reality is, once they have gotten into the college football playoff over the last 2 seasons, the Big Ten has won. And the reality is Big Ten holds the last 2 national championship trophies.
I didn't say they probably wouldn't win. I said they may not.
Well, that's fair, but you're arguing a supposition, not the reality of what actually has happened.
But the reality, but what actually has happened in reality, to your point, when you're going to what's actually happened, the past 2 national championships have been from the Big Ten. But that reality, Diesel, has nothing to do with the heart of the SEC schedule. While, yes, you're right, the reality is the Big Ten's won 2 national championships. Also, the reality is, we all know the SEC's freaking hard. That's also a reality. Like, you can call it whatever word you want to call it. The reality is the SEC is the toughest conference to play in. Fact. You can go win the Big Ten and the ACC and claim all these national championships. That's great. I'm not throwing shade on Ohio State here, not trying to put Buckeye Mike and Steve on blast. We love Ohio State. We love you guys. But I'm just saying, we all know that the 5-game stretch Ohio State is playing right now doesn't compare to the 5-game. And here I am sticking up for the Gamecocks.
Well,
Who'd have thought?
You would think that we're getting paid $1 every time we say reality in the segment.
Reality.
The reality is we got to get out to break because we have Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central on in the very next segment to talk about everything, including the firing of Lonnie Teasley and this weekend's matchup as well. That's next. Well, a lot to talk about when it comes to the South Carolina Gamecocks. Number one, last weekend, they didn't look particularly great against LSU. Number two, they're making some changes when it comes to support staff on the coaching ranks. And number three, they got a big one this weekend, hosting the Oklahoma Sooners. To break it all down and more, Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central joins us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Jack, welcome into the show. Let's start right there with Lonnie Teasley out at South Carolina. Sean Elliott stepping into his role. Have you had a chance to hear directly from Sean and what kind of change you think his special brand of intensity will bring to this offensive line group?
Hey, guys. And no, we have not gotten the chance to talk to Sean Elliott about it. We did talk to Shane Beamer, however, and there does seem to be a noticeable difference. Obviously, if you know anything about Sean Elliott, you know he is high intensity, kind of I guess what you would call a football sicko, and just the way he goes about his business. I mean, he's a high energy guy, and you know I've chatted with him multiple times in the past during media and stuff. He is definitely what you see is what you get, and he's someone that obviously loves South Carolina a lot. And I think Shane mentioned it today, and even on Sunday, that having a different voice in there in that offensive line room will hopefully make a difference. And Sean's a lot more hands-on. I mean, he was during practice today, according to Shane, he was yelling, screaming, barking, kind of getting in the guys' faces on the offensive line to try to rattle them. And it's all in preparation just to try to fix the mess that is this offensive line unit, because the blocking hasn't been where it needs to be. There's too many penalties up front. It was time for a change, and it's good to see that it's come during midseason, which is something that is far from the norm in the Beamer era.
Jack Veltri, Gamecock Central. Jack, I'm going to play devil's advocate if that's okay with you. How is a new voice going to fix the personnel issues? Because ultimately it's not Lonnie Teasley who's injured. It wasn't Lonnie Teasley with the pre-snap motions or the pre-snap penalties. It wasn't Lonnie Teasley who let guys run free. How is a new voice just all of a sudden going to fix things?
That's a valid question, Cole. And honestly, it's one that I have too. In that, look, at the end of the day, he's just the coach. He's not the one on the field that has to go out there and block for Lenore Sellers and be, have the awareness to not have a false start penalty. At the end of the day, you can do everything you possibly can during practice. You could change everything up if you want to during practice to try and drill it into these guys' heads that, hey, we've got to block longer than 2 or 3 seconds, and we have got to avoid the penalties. Got to be more disciplined. They're probably doing as much as they can during practice to get that ship fixed. At the end of the day, though, Cole, you have the players on the field out there are the ones responsible for the mistakes that they're making, and it's up to them on Saturday to go out there and show why a change was made to make the adjustments that Sean Elliott is trying to preach to them in practice. So it's tough to answer without seeing it in person yet. But once we kind of get to Saturday, we'll kind of know, okay, what change actually was made in terms of what Sean Elliott brings that Lonnie Teasley simply didn't.
So, Jack, I don't know if you're a gambling man, but, it's pervasive. It's everywhere. And our esteemed colleague here, Cole, has a great endorsement with Prize Picks right now. I don't know if this is available inside that Prize Picks app, but if you had to set the over-under at 0.5, how many headbutts will Sean Elliott have on a South Carolina player who's wearing a helmet at the time and Sean is not?
Oh, gosh. I'm going to say quite a few, to be honest. Look, if his energy is what it sounds like it was today at practice, then, yeah, I think we're going to be like that Georgia State video from a few years ago of him just going nuts. I mean, that's honestly the type of energy that I feel like South Carolina needs. And look, not to say that Lonnie Teasley is not – he's not Sean Elliott. No disrespect, but he's not Sean Elliott and what this team simply just needs right now. I think Shane is right in that maybe they just simply need a new voice, and maybe that will be a big difference moving forward because his energy honestly just unlike anything you really see from many coaches.
So just a little housekeeping question as Sean Elliott has to elevate his duties on a daily basis and during games. Who is going to take Sean Elliott's former job description, or is Sean going to have to pull double duty?
So Ben Burris will be handling tight end coaching duties. Sean's going to still help out a little bit with the tight ends just because the O-line and the tight ends do work some together during practice, obviously with blocking. But, Ben is a guy that you don't know much about him. He is at South Carolina, obviously, now, and did spend 10 seasons coaching in the NFL. He worked a little bit with Mike Shula with the Carolina Panthers for a little bit. So he has coaching experience, looks to be a relatively younger guy. But, again, he's been around this program now for a bit and knows the ins and outs of football. So Shane sounds very confident in the job that he's going to be able to do. And even the players that we spoke to today, Jordan Dingle, one of the tight ends from South Carolina, said that Ben's personality is a little bit different from Sean's because, like I said, Sean is kind of one of one when it comes to that energy he brings. But Ben also is able to help those guys out in his own way as well.
We're talking to Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central. Make sure you give him a follow on Twitter, on X, at Jack T. Veltri. Really good content from Jack throughout the course of the week. Let me ask you this, Jack. You were in practices, not everyone, but you saw Lonnie Teasley coach football. For those Gamecock fans out there that were curious, as I was, what was it like watching Lonnie Teasley coach? Was there a disconnect in your mind? Or was it something that he was or was not doing? Maybe something he was doing that Shane Beamer wanted to do better, or maybe it was something that he wasn't doing. Describe what the Lonnie Teasley coaching style looked like and maybe why they ultimately felt like that wasn't the right fit.
I think the best way to, because again, we were only out there for so many practices during the summer. It's hard to really get a gauge of what a coach's style is like. Nothing too noticeable that stood out to me. The one thing I did pick up on today, though, from what the guys had to say, is that basically Sean Elliott's a lot more hands-on. And interpret that for what you will, but that to me was the biggest thing that stuck out, was that, okay, is Lonnie Teasley just not as hands-on as a guy like Sean Elliott is? What exactly does that mean? We didn't get a clear answer on that today, but that would be the biggest thing that kind of putting the pieces together as to why he's no longer coaching at South Carolina. Maybe it's just the fact that, again, South Carolina just needed something different than what Lonnie was doing. Again, he's a good coach. He's a good recruiting guy. I mean, he brought in a lot of 4-, 5-star players. But for whatever reason, I mean, stars are just stars, right? You have to go out there and develop those guys into being the types of players that they're projected to be. For whatever reason, that just simply has not been the case of where it needs to be with the development. And ultimately, I do think that is why, for as good as a recruiter that Lonnie is, the coaching is obviously just not up to snuff for South Carolina.
Find Jack on Twitter at Jack T. Veltri, Veltri. Our counterpart and our morning show host on the station, Jack. Maybe a little facetious here when he said this, but he said Lenora Sellers should just go ahead, shut it down, and get ready for the NFL draft. I know that's probably a little facetious, but we see it in college football all the time. Given what you know about Lenoris, and I don't know if you've had a chance to speak with him, can you dispel any thoughts in Lenoris's mind about maybe coasting down the stretch or shutting it down?
No, no, it's not going to happen. I mean, look, at the end of the day, they're still in the middle of the season, right? Yeah. It's one thing if this is after the season or whatever, and guys opt out and stuff and declare for the draft. Nah, man. I mean, they're in the middle of the season. That's not even. I don't even think that's a discussion point right now.
Jack, it's okay. You can say it. He won't get mad. I'll say it. It's a stupid, idiotic take from Rob Brown. I mean, there's no issue with that. I don't know.
Who is coming up with that take, man? I mean, that's just.
What are we doing
here?
What are we doing,
Jack? I was just clearly teeing you up to say that's ludicrous.
Yeah,
That's what he's here.
Baiting me right
That's
there.
right. Hey, Jack, let's continue to throw some wild ones at you. I want to bring you in on a conversation we were having in the last segment of the show. In South Carolina, there are a lot of people that have moved here from Ohio. We have a lot of Ohio State fans that listen, and I upset the Ohio State fans in the last segment talking about, their success this year compared to if they were playing in the SEC. Obviously, that lit the text line up. I compared Ohio State's schedule to not compared it, but I brought up their schedule versus the gauntlet that South Carolina's in right now with this 5-game stretch that the Gamecocks are facing. When you look across college football and you see the teams out there that are atop the landscape, the top 25 AP poll, a team like Ohio State, do you feel like as dominant as they are, that dominance would translate over to this 5-game gauntlet, the SEC, or the 5-game gauntlet that South Carolina is in the midst of right now? My whole point was we just don't know what the deficiencies are with Ohio State right now because they're not playing in a similar type gauntlet.
No, I mean, it's nowhere near the same as the SEC. I mean, look, Ohio State is obviously the top team in the country right now. Nobody's disputing that. And nobody's going to sit here saying that the Big Ten is a bad football conference.
Yeah.
It's not. I would say you look at top to bottom, the Big Ten is very top heavy, I would say.
Yep.
I think there are just far too many mediocre to bad teams in that conference. Like UCLA, I'll even group Penn State into that, man. Penn State's in that middle of the pack, and then everything below Penn State, like teams that you think of that are just not very good, those are the teams I'm talking about here. But, look, you look at Ohio State's upcoming schedule. At Wisconsin, win. Penn State at home, win. At Purdue, win.
Mm-hmm.
Home versus UCLA, win. Rutgers at home, win. At Michigan end of the year, you never know what can happen, obviously. But point being, Ohio State's probably going to be undefeated this season. And you look at the schedule that, for instance, South Carolina's got. I mean, it is nowhere near as easy as what Ohio State has. So the point being, there are difficult teams to face in that conference, but I don't see any Indianas on the schedule here. I don't see, Penn State's not as, they're not the number 2 team in the country anymore. Michigan's unranked. So that's kind of just the cards you're dealt with teams around you. You can't control what they do, but the SEC is just always good every single year, it feels like.
Jack, we won't get the updated injury report information going into this Oklahoma game until a little bit later on in the week. But, after what we saw from John Mateer last week against Texas, I don't think it's going to surprise anybody if he doesn't play and Michael Hawkins Jr. suits up for the Sooners. I'm sure by now you've probably gone back and watched a little bit of film on his tough first season there in Norman. But what kind of challenges do you look at Michael Hawkins Jr. presenting for South Carolina?
Well, I think we're going to see Mateer for sure. He said himself that he's been full go in practice this week, and it's something that you're going to have to keep an eye on with the hand injury and stuff. And obviously, it affected him going up against Texas's defense. And South Carolina's got a pretty good defense itself out there, so I would imagine they're going to try to just follow the same blueprint that Texas laid out for them in how to go out there and shut down Mateer, because no one really has done it so far this year. Texas figured it out, even if he wasn't at 100%. To kind of circle back to Michael Hawkins Jr., South Carolina faced him last year in that game out in Norman. If you guys remember, he was the starter over Jackson Arnold that day, and it did not take long before South Carolina was up 21-0. They make the move to Jackson Arnold, and he takes many of those 9 sacks throughout the afternoon. So I don't think we'll see Hawkins in this game. I would be surprised. I never rule it out, because you just don't know. What if John Mateer has another rough first half or something, right? What if he has like 2 or 3 picks and the hand injury is far affecting him more than anyone anticipated? Maybe you pull the trigger with Hawkins. He had a pretty good game against Kent State, but guys, it's Kent State. South Carolina's defense made a living feasting off of him last season. So I get it. Different offense coordinator with Ben Arbuckle. different system, different team. But I would say I feel good about South Carolina in this game because of what they can do defensively and the fact that Mateer has shown now that he's not invincible. You know, he is definitely hampered by this injury, whether he admits it or not.
Jack, before we let you go, man, how do you see this one playing out Saturday?
Oof, this is the first time I've actually thought about it. I'm not going to give a score prediction yet. I have not thought that far ahead. Right now, as we sit here on Tuesday afternoon, guys, my gut is leaning towards South Carolina winning this game. My thought is they have to win one of these next two games to be able to make a bowl game this season. There's no excuse to have the home field advantage you do at Willie B and not be able to split these next two games. I don't think Oklahoma is as good as people are saying. We obviously saw that against Texas this past weekend. They are, a good team. Don't get me wrong, better than South Carolina right now. But I think South Carolina will get the upset this weekend, take down a top 15 Oklahoma team, just because I think that defense can do what Texas did last weekend against Mateer. And I think this change with Elliott being out there, coaching this offensive line, will lead to something better, as Beamer hopes it will.
Jack, if South Carolina can't get the win on Saturday, do they make a bowl game this year?
Ooh. Well, like I said, you need to be able to split these next two home games. But I think Alabama's a much taller task. This is, without a doubt, must-win game right here. If you don't win this game, I'll go out on a limb and say you don't make a bowl game.
Oof. It's hard to disagree, Jack. You're the best, man. Appreciate you as always.
I appreciate it, fellas.
Absolutely. Jack Veltri, Gamecock Central. Diesel, we teased this yesterday. Let's get into it. We are going to rank Dave Canales' wins as the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. Why? Because when the Panthers beat the Cowboys on Sunday, the announcer for the, Fox broadcast? I believe it was. I think it was Burkhardt. Kevin said, look, this might be the biggest win of Dave Canales' tenure. It might be. We rank him. He has 8 wins now as the head coach of Carolina. We'll rank those 8 next. Diesel, we teased this yesterday, and I want to get into it here in this short segment. Want to hear from the Tolos as well on this at 844-326-3663. Dave Canales has 8 wins as the head football coach of the Carolina Panthers, and it was not Kevin Burkhardt because Kevin's with Tom Brady. So it was the broadcast on Fox with Greg Olson brought up at the very end that this may have been Dave Canales' best win as the head coach of the Carolina Panthers, talking about the win on Sunday over my Cowboys, right? So let's set the scene. As the head coach of the Carolina Panthers, Diesel, a season ago, Dave Canales beat the Las Vegas Raiders 36-22. It was in Las Vegas, by the way. That was their first one of the season. He beat the Saints in November after 5 straight losses. He beat the New York Giants in overtime. He beat the Arizona Cardinals in overtime at Bank of America. And to finish the season in overtime, the third overtime win for the Carolina Panthers a season ago, beat the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta. So impressive wins for Dave Canales in 2024. You fast forward to 2025, Diesel. The Panthers have beaten the Atlanta Falcons 30-0, the Miami Dolphins 27-24, and the Dallas Cowboys 30-27. I ask you and the Tolos, of those 8, which is Dave Canales' most impressive win as head coach?
Oh, man. I mean, you could look back at impact and say any one of those midseason wins last year was incredibly important. Thinking about that win over the Saints 23-22 on November 3rd last season. You could look at that overtime win against the Giants in Germany last season as kind of that catalyst that turned this franchise around and turned Bryce Young's future around with this team. They followed that up with some impressive losses, and you know, no moral victories here. You could say any of those impressive losses were just as big as any of the wins. I look at the win against the Falcons just a couple of weeks ago, the 30-0 shutout against the Falcons, because clearly the Falcons were good enough to beat the Bills last night.
Yeah.
They're a quality football team, and either the Falcons struggled that week for whatever reason, or the Panthers really had them figured out that week for whatever reason. But that, to me, has got to be the biggest.
So I'm with you. For me, it's 2. It's the Falcons and it's the Cowboys. I like the wins Dave Canales had in 2024, Diesel, but when I look back, there wasn't a win that just like jumped off the page, right? And if you just tuned in, Tolos, we're ranking the 8 wins that Dave Canales has as head coach of the Carolina Panthers. Raiders, nice win on the road.
But that was also Andy Dalton.
Right. That's true. I don't see anything last year that jumps off the page. So
don't you think, though, that you're giving your Cowboys just a little too much credit, putting them at number 2 on this list?
Yeah, I do. But I think they're number 2. I don't think they're number 1.
No.
The reason, here's the deal. Dallas is an impressive. Yes, it's an impressive win. But the reality is Dallas has the worst defense in the NFL. So take the star off, take the Cowboys' name off, and just say Diesel blind resume, Carolina Panthers last week won 30-27 against the worst defense in the NFL. If you take the star off the helmet and the Cowboys' name off of it, you probably think, okay, that's probably not the most impressive win. You don't. And again, not bagging on the play-by-play announcer who Tolo RJ sent and said it was Adam Amin, not bagging on him. But the star and the Cowboys' name and Jerry and the fans that were there, it makes it feel like it was the biggest win. But I think I would say that the 30-0 win over Atlanta on the 21st of September was a bigger win.
If it's not that, I think it's their other win against the Falcons on the road to close out the season last year. January 5th, 44-38 overtime win on the road at Atlanta. I mean, they could have lost that game, gone into the offseason feeling really bad about themselves because the prior week they lost at Tampa 48-14. Got absolutely walloped on the road at Tampa the week prior to that, Cole. I mean, if you do that, you end the season with 3 out of 4 blowout losses to close the season. That would have been a blowout loss to Dallas, a win over Arizona, blowout loss to Tampa, and a loss to Atlanta. You you hit that, you're not going into the next season with any positivity.
Yeah, and Picking Guitar on YouTube brings up a good point. He says they made the Falcons look exceptionally pedestrian. Chris on YouTube says last game last year, beating Atlanta, knocking them from the playoffs contention. That's a good one. You brought that up, Diesel. I think that might be up there as well. I just think ultimately people will look at that win on Sunday against Dallas and say, oh, it's a huge win because of the star, because of the Cowboys name. But the reality, and again, we're saying the word reality a lot in today's show, is they have a horrible defense. And yeah, Bryce Young against a horrible defense was good, wasn't great. Rico Dowdle, was the man on Sunday. Like Rico Dowdle probably gets more credit, Diesel, for that win than anybody. Maybe the kicker as well, because he did hit the game winner, right? But ultimately, I don't know that the Cowboys win was the most impressive of the Dave Canales tenure. I think the Falcons win was more impressive.
Worth noting, great oxymoron from @PickinGuitar on YouTube. Exceptionally pedestrian. 2 words that mean very different things. And Tolos, if you're wondering why we're given the @PickinGuitar or @Dewey222, right now for some reason YouTube is showing us @handles and not your display names.
Yeah.
It's got to be some sort of settings or security feature that just needs to be updated within our system so that we see the names that you want us to see.
He's basically saying they look very average, right?
Yes.
That's the same thing there. Very average, exceptionally pedestrian. And he's right. They did. I mean, that was a very impressive. Now that you look back and to your point, what Atlanta did to Buffalo last night, an impressive win.
When we come back, Cole, it's a weekly top 10, the Carolinas top 10, ranking all 10 FBS playing schools in the Carolinas, North and South. Clemson has clawed their way back up to a podium spot on my top 10 list. Do they deserve it? We'll talk about it next. People have asked me, Cole, and by people, I mean like high-ranking people, NASA officials, college football CEOs, et cetera, have asked me, what is my method for picking my Carolina's top 10? And the truth is, my method is that there is no method. that I just kind of go how I feel, It's a little bit of resume mixed with a little bit of who would I not want to play, mixed with a little who do I think would win in head-to-head matchups. But here we go. We do it every single week, Cole, our Carolina's top 10. And this fits so perfectly because there are exactly 10 FBS playing schools in the Carolinas. It'd be awkward to call it the Carolinas top 11. That's just not fun.
You ready?
It's not fun to say.
You ready? There you go.
Here we go. Did you make that?
No, I just clicked 2 buttons real quick. I already had them on the. Here's one more. Oh, that was the wrong one. Let me try again. What are we
dropping boulders on coyotes here?
There we go.
Oh,
how's that?
God.
I'm just clicking buttons on the cart wall to make intros on the fly. That's how we do things.
I love it. By the way, Tolos, coming up at 5:40, we'll unveil the newest wire-to-wire upset picks challenge rankings. You just threw me off with all those sound effects. I'm
sorry.
I'm not used to all this.
I apologize.
So here we go, man. 10 FBS playing schools in the Carolinas. I have Clemson, Cole, making a big jump this week. Before we get to that spot, we have to go through the dregs, right? We have to put on our wading boots, and we have to go out there in the muck. Now, you're a deer hunter, Cole. What do you do if the deer that you take wanders into a big muddy hole?
Yeah.
Do you just go in after it? I mean, it is.
Yeah. You got to. I've had that happen.
Yeah.
That happen many times.
Well, that's where we are.
You got to get dirty, man.
That's where we are with the now 1-5 Charlotte 49ers.
Oh,
not a surprise that Charlotte stays in the number 10 spot.
Can they fall off the list completely?
I mean, truth be told, and every time we bring this up, somebody says, well, what about PC? This is an FBS list, okay? PC would beat Charlotte. They would beat Charlotte tomorrow.
I think
Furman
they would
beat
too.
Charlotte. Western Carolina would trounce Charlotte if they played. And we'll talk about that Western Carolina Furman game on Thursday when we talk to Clay Hendricks, head football coach of the Furman Paladins. But Charlotte at 10, North Carolina stays at number 9, Cole, because, well, North Carolina just can't get out of its own way. They just keep looking bad on and off the field every single week. So even though they didn't play this week, they still look terrible. I got number 8 still, the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. Coastal, they got even with a 23-8 win on the road at ULM. Any road win in conference is good, but some are better than others, and ULM is not one of those.
So you've got, to recap real quick, Charlotte at the bottom.
Yeah.
North Carolina, and then Coastal.
Correct.
Those are 3 bad football teams.
Yeah, they're 3 bad football teams.
Can we trade those, ship those off to another state? I mean, this is embarrassing.
You want to draw that line of demarcation between 7 and 8 because anybody below that is not playing good football right now.
No.
We're going to find out about Coastal this week as they go on the road at App State, who are at 4-2, but I haven't moved App State up my list at all. I've got App State still at number 7. They're playing better football these days, but they're still not like, they don't look crisp, right? They don't look like a good football team.
Yeah, played good Saturday. They got a good win.
But they got a 41-20 win on the road at Georgia State. Georgia State, also one of the worst football teams in college football.
They are. Do you feel like App State, with the 2 losses on the season, the Southern Miss and Boise State, I don't know, and tell me if I'm wrong here. Do you feel like you still really don't know how good this App State team is?
I don't have a clue.
Yeah.
I don't have a clue about that. Now, Boise State, really good team. I think I took their loss at USF for granted early in the season. I thought, okay, Boise State is down this year and App State has a chance to beat them. No, we were completely outclassed by Boise State in Boise. And so that's why I think App State not really a good football team yet. They haven't proven it against a good football team.
Now, you might look like a good football team Saturday.
Maybe. I don't know.
You should,
I
right?
don't know, though. Coastal's
That's a big
3-3. They're not awful.
That's a big one.
They're not
It's
awful.
at home in Boone, right?
Yep, that's right.
And then here's the deal, though. You'll find out because 2 of the next 3 after that, you're on the road at Old Dominion. You're on the road at JMU.
Yeah.
That's a tough stretch to end the season right there.
Yeah. And then Georgia Southern, a rivalry game to finish things off.
Yeah, that's true.
Number 6 on my list, Cole, I have the NC State Wolfpack. By God, how far has NC State fallen? Excuse me, number 6. How far has NC State fallen off? Are they going over that cliff before our very eyes? Losers of their last 3 Power 4 competition games.
They're pretty bad. I didn't know if Dave Doran's team would be this bad this quick, but when you talk about having them on this list with toward the bottom, Coastal Carolinas, App State, I don't know. I think App State versus NC State would be a pretty good game right now.
Maybe. Don't you
NC feel like
State,
App State would have a chance?
I think they might, and if they played today and App State beat NC State, they might fire Dave Doran for it.
Yeah, I think we're to the point now where we have parked in the parking spot of NC State really doesn't have any expectations.
Yeah.
Because they've become irrelevant.
They're up, they're down,
Yeah.
they're good for a couple weeks, and then they fall off towards the back half of the season.
And they're thanking God right now for Bill Belichick. That's what they're doing.
Right. At least we're not the biggest dumpster fire in the state.
Yep.
Number 5 on my list, Cole, I have the East Carolina Pirates. Even though East Carolina is a 500 football club right now, they acquitted themselves well on the road at Tulane. They were the underdogs, and they were tied late in the 4th quarter. I mean, what else do you want when you're the underdog? That's what you were expected to do. Now, they didn't have the defense down the stretch to stop Tulane. Tulane just they imposed their will. They did what they wanted to do, and they marched right down and scored the game-winning score. But East Carolina still, I think, a pretty good football team. And Caton, I'm losing his last name, Halton, I think. Still a really good quarterback, and I wouldn't want to have to face him and game plan against him. Number 4 on my list.
Real quick, just so I can refresh myself, stop at 5 just for a second.
Yeah.
You've got UNC Charlotte 10.
Yep.
Who was 8 and 9?
I've got UNC at 9, Coastal at 8.
Okay.
I think Coastal would beat North Carolina if they played right now.
Yeah, and then
App State 7,
NC
State
Gotcha.
6, East Carolina 5. Get to the number 4 spot, falling from number 2. I've got South Carolina at the number 4 spot. I mean, they're firing coaches mid-season.
They are.
And they're not crushing it on the defensive side of the ball to hide some of the deficiencies offensively, and they're not playing well enough offensively to hide the defensive deficiencies. Now, defense is farther along, but when you can't score, you're basically betting for pick sixes, fumble recoveries in enemy territory, and punt returns.
Yeah,
and you can't win a lot of games that way.
Yeah, I don't hate it. It's unfortunate, but the moral of this story is the more I hear this list, it's like, goodness gracious, it's a down year for the Carolinas.
Okay.
It's not good.
Madcraft says, Diesel, when can I give you my research assignment? Madcraft, you know the phone number. Call into the show.
Yeah, we've got time in this segment, Madcraft.
Number 3 on my list, Cole. I've got Wake Forest moving up from 6 to 3 because Wake Forest got Oregon State's coach fired. They bucked that trend. They laughed in the face of the notion that you can't fly all the way across the country and win big, but they did it. They beat the living tar out of Oregon State, who are awful. They are awful this year, but still credit for playing well on the road. And very quietly, Robbie Ashford has turned that Wake Forest team's season around. How about that, man?
Yeah, and you know what? They scored 50-something points. I mean, they scored a lot of points.
Big points.
They look good.
Yep.
Again, it was against a very bad team, right?
Yeah.
To your point. But
they've gone from losing small early to winning small midway through the season so far to winning big against once Power 4 competition. There's still Power 4 recruits on that Oregon State team. So I got Wake Forest moving up to the number 3 spot. Wake Forest, better football team right now than South Carolina. I've got Clemson as my number 2 team in the Carolinas, and that means Duke is number 1. Clemson seems to have turned that corner. You know, they've washed off that stink from the disastrous start, but you know, it's hard to argue that they aren't playing great ball right now. The question is now, how banged up is Cade Klubnik?
Man, that's interesting. So Duke won, and Duke has a good quarterback as well.
They have clobbered the last 3 teams they played. Duke playing really good. The defense, a little suspect. They're kind of up and down, but they can flat out score.
Let's see here. Let's look at the 2025 Blue. They're 4-2.
Yep.
Losses to Illinois, a good Illinois team, and Tulane. I don't know if that's the best loss in New Orleans.
No, it's not.
But, so you're talking about wins over Elon.
But Clemson lost back-to-back to Georgia Tech and Syracuse.
It's true. So you're comparing 2 teams that didn't have a great start. Clemson started, 1-3. Duke started 1-2. And now Duke's rolled off 3 straight. Again, NC State scored 45. At Syracuse, again, a Syracuse team that's without Steve Angeli, a lot different of a team than Clemson played, right? And at Cal, where they made Cal look pretty bad, 45-21. Here's the deal. I don't have a ton of pushback. Duke was off last Saturday, so we don't have a recent sample size.
If they had to play right now,
Clemson and Duke?
Who wins? I mean, assuming Cade is healthy. Let's not put that caveat to it. If Cade is healthy, he's got to play 4 quarters, which he hasn't had to do in the last 2 weeks.
I think Clemson wins a close one.
Really?
If they played right now.
Neutral site game.
Yeah. Again, you know, Duke could say, well, we got them on Labor Day a couple of years ago, right in the season opener. I think right now, if they played today, Clemson would win. I don't think it would be a blowout. But what I was going to say is, Diesel, to your point about Duke, we're going to find out. We're going to find out because they were off last Saturday. Mm-hmm. Here's a weird schedule. I don't know that I've seen this before. They play Georgia Tech this Saturday at home in Durham. Then they're off again, and then they play at Clemson.
They got 2 byes in 3 weeks?
Right.
God.
At Cal, bye week last Saturday.
Well, you can clearly tell whose schedule was made last in the scheduling office.
I mean, isn't that weird?
They just got the remainders, and they had to take what they could take.
I don't know that I've seen that. So you're talking about a bye, Georgia Tech, a bye, Clemson, and then to finish the season, they're at UConn. They host Virginia, they're at North Carolina, and they host Wake Forest.
That might be the best setup possible for them. They get a bye before Georgia Tech and Clemson. That's wild.
Tolos, what's your name?
What say you? Between Duke and Clemson, those are probably the 2, easily the 2 best teams in the Carolinas right now. Who would win on a neutral field? 844 fan phone.
We go to the phone lines. Madcraft wants to weigh in at 844-326-3663, as you just mentioned there. Madcraft, I don't know if he wants to comment on your list or if he wants to something about research. What are we doing here, Madcraft?
Yeah, I got my research assignment. Wanted to turn it in for an easy A.
Oh, did you give him a research assignment?
I did. We were talking about injuries. He keeps droning on and on about injuries at MetLife Stadium. And then we were talking about Tottenham Hotspur that has an artificial field that they roll out especially for NFL games.
I forgot
talking
about
that.
Talking about
Injuries on those fields. What have you discovered, Madcraft?
Well, I've discovered that the players hate that field.
Who cares what the players like?
Well, the Players Association definitely made a big draw for it a couple of years ago. And they actually asked the NFL to make all conversions. 17 teams out of 32 have artificial turfs. And the NFL Players Association begged the NFL to make a conversion to all grass. And the NFL released their study from 2012 to 2022 and estimated that roughly 15 to 20% of all season-ending lower body injuries occurred on turf, not grass. So as far as Tottenham goes, they do have a special turf designed specifically for NFL. So it actually has a lower injury rating than MetLife, but it's because the turf is rarely used.
Wow.
So it's not as worn as MetLife, which has 2 teams and is basically running year long if you include soccer on the same turf, right? So it's being worn down a lot. After 2023, the Buffalo Bills had what they called a, quote, wave of injuries. Von Miller went down with a knee injury, multiple knees aggravated, multiple hamstring, leg, ankle injuries. They determined that synthetics result in ACL spikes and ankle spikes, ankle twist spikes, unrelated to contact. It's just to the turf itself. After 2023, Tottenham redesigned their turf and went to a softer than synthetic that's closer to AT&T Stadium, and NFL approved and regulated it, but the players still complained and said, we got to get rid of it. So that's my information.
Wow.
I hope I got a name.
Hold on, Madcraft. Hold on. Don't hang up.
Yeah.
Two questions. One statement, one question. Number one, I'm impressed. I don't know about Diesel. I give you an A+ on that.
Good.
That was well researched. Dewey said it's just a list of excuses, but I think it's a good little I think you did a good job there. Can you be our researcher on our show? Can you come in for free and work and be our researcher?
Absolutely. If you get me in that room, get me a chair.
We can give you a chair.
Yeah, we got those.
We can't give any money, but we can give you a chair.
And we can't promise you that the chair is safe.
I don't need no money. How about just a mic? What about a mic?
The Tolos, I might not want to hear you a lot. We might. What if we did Madcraft the researcher, and maybe there's a segment we'll see. How do you react to Diesel's Carolina's top 10 list?
I actually really like it. I don't have any problems with it.
You're seeing it on the stream, by the way, if you're still watching.
I still think PC. I still think PC's the best football team in the Carolinas.
You think they'd beat Clemson today, Madcraft?
Dude, they might.
No, they wouldn't. Come on. Are you kidding me?
It, guys. Don't get off here.
See you, man.
Thanks, Madcraft.
So if you're watching the stream, Diesel's Carolina top 10, shout out to ChatGPT for that. I don't know how we rank that graphic that ChatGPT
I think it's the fact that they doubled up the outlines of the Carolinas.
And they they did double.
It's a little wonky.
It's wonky. You just never know with ChatGPT. Like sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's like.
I really hope that, like anytime you have ChatGPT generate AI images, it's always wonky, especially if, you're having it include any words in there.
Yeah.
There's always clear visual evidence that AI is generated here. I wonder if that's built into the system, right? Like to say like, hey, if you're going to use the cheap, free, available AI, it's written into the code that it should be clear and obvious to anybody with half a brain that this is AI.
I don't know that it is. Here's what I would say to that, Diesel. I think it's so smart, but so dumb in the sense of you have to tell it when I gave it that list, right? I said Diesel's Carolina's top 10 and list the 10 teams. And I said, throw in an outline of the 2 states. That's all I said. I think I've used ChatGPT a lot. I think you have to be super specific and say, yeah, this is exactly how I want it to look. I don't want it to look like that because that looks weird.
At that point, it's quicker just to learn how to make the graphic and just make it the right way.
I went down that road. I was on this kick where I was trying to get ChatGPT to make graphics, and I do a Player of the Week graphic, and it's just easier to. I mean, it really is. It's ridiculous. Yeah. You can't. But there it is one more time. The Diesels and also Diesels. Carolina's top 10. I don't know if the 2 apostrophe S's should be there.
Kind of messed it up. And I hope, because there's a lot of people out there, Cole, that can't recognize AI. Like they don't see the shiny faces of the people and say, that's weird. Or why does that person have 6 or 7 fingers? Like I wish we lived in a world where people would reject AI images, AI video, AI content, AI music, but there's a lot of people out there that just don't care. They want to be
gullible.
Right.
They're too gullible. They really are. Dewey wants to weigh in at 844-326-3663. Speaking of gullible, Texter also says the computer spits out whatever you type in. Can't read your mind. Dewey, what do you have to say on this Tolo Tuesday?
Yes, ChatGPT and ABCDEFG and AI, they're all fake, and they're going to take over the world and put everyone out of jobs if y'all keep believing in it. Madcraft got all his information from Sesame Street and ChatGPT because he didn't know any of that until he turned on ESPN, and the Chargers suck. But anyways, I want to comment on Dave Roberts real quick. They need to go ahead and lose the NLCS so the Dodgers can fire Dave Rogers and the Braves can hire him. Oh.
Dave Rogers. Who is Dave
Well,
Rogers, Dewey?
that's how we know Dewey's not AI, because he's getting it wrong.
Dewey, who is Dave Rogers?
Roberts.
Who?
Oh.
Mr. Dave Roberts or Rogers, whatever his name is.
Real quick, Dewey, just for funsies, stay on the line for a second. Since you are dissing on ChatGPT, Diesel, I literally, while Dewey was talking, I said, hey, we have a listener on our radio show named Dewey. He's funny, but not funny. He's a Braves fan and a Gamecocks fan. Can you roast him? Dewey, would you like to hear ChatGPT's roast of you?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I'll attack.
All right. Here we go. It says, our guy Dewey's on the line, Braves fan, Gamecocks fan, and the human embodiment of a rain delay. This man gets more excited about a sac bunt than a home run and thinks Spencer Rattler still plays in Columbia. Dewey's the only guy who sets his fantasy lineup on paper with a pencil and still gets beat by auto draft. The Braves bullpen collapses. Gamecocks defense gives up 500 yards. Dewey just shrugs and says, we'll get him next year. Buddy, you've been saying that since dial-up internet. Not a bad roast there, Dewey. What do you think?
That's a bunch of crap.
Why? What's your name?
Boom, roasted.
Well, I use crayons.
Oh, sorry.
You mean you eat crayons?
I don't. Well, I do that too, but I use crayons, and the other stuff's a bunch of crap. I don't like sack bunts. I think it should be outlawed from baseball.
Dewey, you're the best. Thanks, as
Thanks,
always.
Dewey.
One more, as this has turned into an open mic segment, I guess, because anytime Dewey calls his brother, his co-part, Tom in Somerville, seems to follow him up lately. Tom, I promise I didn't mean that in a harsh way. How are you, man?
Hey, I'm good. You know, ChatGPT, as Dewey calls it, is good for certain things, but I've been experimenting with it a lot lately. You do have to be very, very specific as to what you want, and if you are, you'll get it. But I have to use it a lot to translate with the Hispanic community. And it does a very good job of translating. I will say that.
How do you?
If you got an iPhone, it'll do that in real time, Tom. You don't have to use ChatGPT for that.
How do you use that?
Well, it's more so via text exchanges. You just copy the text, you put it in there, you say translate this to Spanish, and it translates.
Don't they have Don't they have translating apps out there?
Well, they do, but apparently some smart man figured it out that with ChatGPT, it conjugates the verbs the right way, and Lord Almighty knows I ain't gonna know what conjugate even means, and I ain't smart enough to figure that out.
Tom,
so
the real question is, why are you having daily exchanges with Hispanics?
It's a part of the business. It's a part of the business.
Now I'm interested to see what Tom does for a living.
You talk to a lot of people. You talk to a lot of people, or text with a lot of people. But that's a part of it.
Now I want to know what the Tolos think, Diesel, Tom's occupation is. If he's
it ain't nothing illegal.
Oh.
Okay, it ain't nothing illegal.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Dishwasher. I'm gonna say
probably make
dishwasher.
more money if it was, but the thing I wanted to ask you guys real quick.
Yeah.
How many points do you think it's going to take to beat Oklahoma? Because the more and more I look at this game, both offenses, you could go find 11 kids at the playground and probably score more points on somebody than these two offenses can generate. But is 20 points going to win this game on Saturday, realistically? Because I think we're in for a defensive battle on Saturday.
I don't think 20 does. 20
defensive battle, or is it like an offensive ineptitude battle?
Well, that's probably it.
Put it on the punter's foot,
I don't know. If you told me right now South Carolina scores 20 points against John Mateer, don't you think John Mateer scores 21 at least?
Well, that's the thing. And I know Carolina's defense ain't Texas, but he did not look good last week. And I don't know if it was just them rushing him back into it or what, but his accuracy wasn't there. He just did not look like the same quarterback.
Yeah, it might take him a couple of weeks to figure it out, get his hand back. His grip strength might be a little bit off. That might be the thing that helps South Carolina. If these defensive linemen can get their hands up and tip some balls up in the air, you might see a couple of takeaways going the other direction. I think that's what's going to take for South Carolina to beat them, right? I mean, they can't score enough just running their base offense to beat, well, really anybody in the SEC. I think offensively, they're probably good enough for 17 to 21 points a game max. And if you're playing a team with an offensive pulse, then you've got to get a pick six or a fumble recovery or a special team score.
Tom, before we let you go, what'd you think about Dave Roberts last night, since you're a baseball fan?
Well, I was more keen to the football games last night, but I watched more of the Seattle game. I don't know if Dave Roberts said anything or did anything, but all I know is he's got a good baseball team. He's a good coach, and if he's tired of California, he can come down and coach the Atlanta Braves anytime he wants to.
I like
Appreciate
it.
you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. Open invitation to Dave Roberts. Picking Guitar on YouTube says, I don't care what Tom does for a living, but I want to cook out with him and gripe about our Gamecocks. I think it would be some creative banter. It probably would. Appreciate you, Tom, for calling in from Somerville. Diesel, let's continue the conversation. I have a fun game in the very next segment. It might be more rapid fire style with the short segment coming up, but Tolos are invited to play along as well. A game, college football game, titled How Good Is? That's next. We've got Dabo Sweeney audio coming up at 6 o'clock in our Tuesday 6 o'clock segment of what Dabo Sweeney had to say today. So if you're a Clemson fan and you did not get a chance to hear Dabo Sweeney's weekly presser today, we'll have that audio for you at 6. We'll have Shane Beamer tomorrow at 6 as well. Still a lot to get to on the show today, Diesel, but let's play a game in this very segment. And I want to invite the Tolos to play along as well at 844-326-3663. It's very simple. We now have more data, more information, more bulletin board data points, I guess, that we can hang up and clip on the bulletin board that show us how good each team is thus far in college football. And those data points are certainly helpful, right, when it comes to figuring out how good a team is. But this will be a semi-rapid fire. You and I are going to go through 10 teams in college football. And let's give ourselves some choices here. So we're going to say the choices are going to be elite. Okay? Diesel, that's one choice. Very good is one choice. Good is good. Would you say good and average is the same thing?
No.
Okay, let's go average.
Average is different.
And let's go real bad. So we've got 5 categories: elite, very good, good, average, and real bad. And we can give obviously some commentary on why we think that. But how good is 10 teams I've selected to throw at you? You ready?
Yep.
Elite, very good, good, average, or real bad. Elite means they're at the top, like they're almost untouchable, right? Let's start with a team that had a lot of conversation from last year going into this year because of Kalen DeBoer's not so great first season. Alabama. Very simple question. How good is Alabama? Elite, very good, good, average, or real bad? You go first on this one.
They're not quite elite, but they're knocking on that doorstep. I'm putting them in the very good category. 3-point road win at Missouri could have gone the other way. We could be talking about a 4-2 team right now.
Does the Florida State loss still keep them at very good instead of elite?
No, they've become a very good football team.
Okay, I'm with you there. I also would classify Alabama as very good. What would I have to see them do to become elite? I think they would have to not run the table because they do play in a tough conference, but I think they'd have to pretty much look like Alabama of old down the stretch where they just take care of business.
6 games left.
Yeah.
They'd have to go to be elite, no worse than 5-1.
I like that. Next, how good is Georgia Tech? Elite, very good, good, average, or real bad? I'll go first on this one. I'm going to tell you, Diesel, I believe Georgia Tech, you might disagree. I'm going to say Georgia Tech's good. I don't know if Georgia Tech's very good. I certainly don't know that Georgia Tech's elite. I'm going to put Georgia Tech in the good category. Am I wrong there?
Yeah, they're good. I mean, look, they beat, looking back at the last couple of weeks, they beat a bad Virginia Tech team by 15. Good win. Very good win.
But you don't think they're really very good?
No, because I don't think they played any real competition all season long.
Clemson was bad.
Colorado, Gardner-Webb, a very down Duke.
Yeah.
A very down Clemson.
Yeah.
Temple, Wake Forest, Virginia Tech. They played an incredibly soft schedule to this point.
Okay. Next.
So I would agree. I'd put them in that good category.
But maybe on the verge of very good. Okay, I like
some
that.
Upward mobility.
How good is Notre Dame? Elite, very good, good, average, or real bad? Diesel, you go first on this one. By the way, a 2-loss Notre Dame team.
Yeah, 2-loss team, but they've turned it around. Started off tough. They've beaten down NC State, a bad team. They beat down Boise State, a pretty good G5 team. Beat down Arkansas, beat down Purdue. I would put Notre Dame right now in the very good category.
Ooh.
But I would say there's a gap between Bama and Notre Dame in that category.
That is interesting, man. I think that's a tough one. Notre Dame. I think it's tough to categorize those guys right now because, to your point, they've gotten better. They did lose to Miami, who turns out to be a really good Miami team, the second best team in the country, right? So no real blemish there. In Diesel, they lost to a really good A&M team. So their 2 losses on the season are to really good teams, top 10 teams. You mentioned the 4 wins in a row. Southern Cal, will be interesting to see how they handle those guys. They don't have a ton of tasks, though. Like Notre Dame's schedule is pretty soft.
I think Notre Dame's kind of riding that line between very good and good.
Okay, I can agree with that. Real quick, we have time for a few more here on how good is. How good South Carolina? Elite, very good, good, average, or real bad. I'll see if you agree or disagree with me that I am going to put South Carolina in the average category. They're not good because there's too many inconsistencies. You can't be good and just fire a coach. Are they real bad? I don't think they're real bad. I think there's a lot of talent on that football team, especially at quarterback, but I'm going to put them at average.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I really can't put them in the real bad category. They haven't shown themselves to be that bad. We've seen good performances from this team. We know the personnel is there to be a better team than what they are. They just haven't achieved it. So again, to cheat here, I'd say they're in the lower half of that average category.
Okay. Next one for you. How good is the 2025 Red Raiders? Texas Tech, they beat UAPB, whoever that is. They beat Kent State.
Arkansas, Pine Bluff.
That's right. Thank you. They beat Oregon State.
Everybody beats Oregon State.
That's correct. They beat Utah. Solid win.
Good win.
They beat Houston. Bad team. And they beat Kansas last weekend. Good team, but they had their way.
Houston's 4-1.
What'd I say?
You said Houston was a bad team. Houston's 4-1.
Well,
4-1 Big 12 team.
I don't know who Houston's beat, though. That's the thing. You know, you're talking about Oklahoma State, Oregon State, Rice, and Stephen F. Austin. So they're a good
Haven't
team.
been incredibly tested.
They're a good team. Houston is, to your point. They've beaten who they're supposed to. Kansas is a good team. Where are we on Texas Tech? How good is Texas Tech?
I'd put Texas Tech.
They're 6-0, Diesel.
God, I'd put Texas Tech in that good category, but got some upward mobility headed towards very good. I mean, I'm sure Leprechaun of Lyman doesn't want to see his Notre Dame Fighting Irish taking on the Red Raiders right now.
That's a good point. I'm battling between good and very good. I mean, right now they're hot, man. You could argue that they are playing as good as any team, right? Now, they're playing at Arizona State. Obviously, Arizona State's a different team without Sam Levin. The rest of the schedule, they have BYU, one more ranked team, and that's pretty much it. So again, not an incredibly difficult schedule, but does Texas Tech right now, these will not look like a team that could somehow find its way into the college football playoff?
Yeah, I think it could really happen. And considering the money they spent in the offseason, the money they've spent getting recruiting classes, like any of this can just blow up and blow away in the wind, right?
Yeah.
It can all just go away at any time. But I think they're building something special down there.
All right, one more for you.
Mm-hmm.
How good is Texas A&M? Talking about a Texas A&M team, Diesel, that is undefeated.
Yep.
They're undefeated on the season. They're a top 10 team. And I'm not talking about an AP poll for any Tolos that just tuned in. Texas A&M's had a heck of a season under Mike Elko, 6-0 now after that win over Florida. They have Arkansas this weekend, then they're at LSU, and then at Mizzou. This is a pretty tough stretch for A&M coming up. Then South Carolina, then you host Samford, and then you're at Texas. We're about to find out how good A&M is, but right now, Diesel, how good's Texas A&M?
I think Texas A&M is very good. I think they're very good. Look at the way they've played defense over the last 3 games. They've given up a total, and I'm terrible at doing math here, 36 points over the last 3 games. So they're averaging 13 points a game scoring allowed.
Yeah, that's good.
You go back to that Notre Dame game. Notre Dame plays really well offensively. Outside of that, they've blown everybody out. I think this Texas A&M team is legit. I think they are.
I think
very
so
good.
too, man. I look at Texas Tech, Texas A&M. Are we going to see 3 Texas teams in the college football playoff or 2 Texas teams. There's some good teams out there. I think it should be a lot of fun.
Speaking of very good, Cole, it's time to unveil our latest upset picks challenge
Do we have to?
standings. Yes, we do. We'll deep dive into the standings next. Love seeing the Upset Picks Challenge list of pickers grow. And from Dan B, who does a phenomenal job of putting together stats every single week when it comes to the Upset Picks Challenge, here's what's happening in the Upset Picks Challenge. 4 new Tolos made a pick last week. We want to up that again this week. I want 10. Yeah. I want 10 new Tolos who have never picked in the Upset Picks Challenge to be in this thing starting tomorrow at 4:00. Remember, we'll lock the spreads in at 3, and then we'll go live with picks at 4. He also gives us that 5 Tolos fell off the board, and that includes his better half, Just Jess. She's gone. She had half a point, got one wrong, and Just Jess is gone.
Well, I'm not far from falling off of that board.
No, you're not. You're not. We'll get to that here. We'll get to yours, mine, and Rob Brown's failure coming up here in just a minute. We have 6 new Tolos on the board. Pop 5 app hit for 14.5 points. He comes in off of the App State message board. I posted it over that said, hey, who wants to get in this thing? Yeah. And his first weekend, he hits for 14.5 points. That's son of a, you know what?
So not fair, by the way. Like, how does that even happen?
Well, if you think that's not fair, my wife, who doesn't even watch football.
This is ridiculous.
Doesn't even watch football. Is in the top 10.
This is unbelievable.
She's in the top 10. F.U. Ashley is in the top 10, sitting in 9th place with 35 points. She picked her game last week literally because Bowling Green has a kitty cat named Pudge that they bring out to the sidelines. She picked that game for 10.5 points because of their unofficial cat mascot, and she friggin' hit.
This just goes to show Diesel, that the 2 years I've participated in this challenge, the more you think about it, the worse you're going to do.
I feel like you're going to opt out next year.
I'm close. I'm very close. Here's the approach I'm going to take next year if we're still here, if we haven't been fired by then or quit or you hit the lottery. I'm not going to try. I'm just going to pick random spreads like you and I do, like early leans. We look at games, and it doesn't work. It just doesn't.
You can talk yourself into some picks that make sense. Like the picks that we're making aren't ludicrous picks. They're just not hitting. This
is unbelievable. So that just goes to show your wife, top 10, and here we are, like
bottom 10,
bottom feeders,
literal bottom 10. She is tied inside the top 10. You, me, and Rob Brown.
Oh God.
We'll see. Let's rephrase that here. You and I have 5.5 points. Rob has 4.5. So we're kicking Rob's ass.
So the 3 of us are just trying to finish in. Whoever finishes his points first is
points.
Hurricane Jeff texted in and asked, can you go ahead and give me exactly where I am? I'm delivering in Chesney. I don't have time to take a look. Hurricane Jeff's busy delivering out in Chesney, he says. Do we have any idea where?
Yeah, Hurricane Jeff has 16 points. He is tied for 53rd place.
That's not bad.
Which, hey, Jeff, you're in a good spot.
Yeah.
You're in a good spot. You hit for like 10 points this week. You hit for a couple more points after that, I think you got a good chance of being inside the top 25.
Here's my new plan. You ready?
Yep.
Starting tomorrow, my new plan with the Upset Picks Challenge. Cold doesn't know what he's talking about. Obviously, that hadn't worked. I've hit one time this year.
Yep.
I'm going to start using ChatGPT to give me picks. And I'm going to start tomorrow. I'm not kidding.
Okay.
I am going to use, and let's see. And let's see if ChatGPT can do it. I'm going to tell ChatGPT all about the challenge, send it to leaderboard. And what I'm going to do is, I'll go one step further. I'm going to have ChatGPT put together a formula of how many points I'll need to get back into the top 20.
See, I've heard people use formulas in this, and they look at it as like, here's the percentage chance that this win could hit, this upset could hit, and they multiply that by the number of points that the spread is. So they could say, here's the value to me for this pick. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that it's a 50-50 game and it's a 10-point spread. Then that is worth 5 points to you if you get it right. So make your picks based on that. I've heard people use that formula. I don't think it works. And nobody is going to catch Dave Mosley, who is in first place at 70 points.
God.
Dave has 70.
That's crazy.
Second place, USC Justin with 47.5. Third place, Kevin Buggs with 41. Fourth place, Bo from Greer at 40. Fifth place, Canes Transplant with 39. Keith and TR has 38. He's in 6th. Puppy Monkey Baby has 37.5 points. That's 7th place. Gamecock Tim in 8th with 35.5. Who's Your Daddy? And my wife, F.U. Ashley, has 35 points. They are in 9th place, and that rounds out your top 10. Just on the outside of that, Brandon in Spartanburg has hit 4 in a row. He is in 12th place. But if you want to find the upset picks standings, go to the Fan Upstate Facebook and the Fan Upstate's Twitter pages at the Fan Upstate on both.
RJ texts in and says, shout out to the Troy Trojans for their overtime win over Texas State. Got 9.5 in the upset picks challenge. Impressive.
And I even looked at that game too.
Yeah, you did?
Yeah, I did.
Well, during the break, I'm going to voice to text and tell ChatGPT all about this challenge, and I'm going to rely on – because I don't know what I'm talking about. I've given up. I can't do it on my own. I'm going to let somebody else do it for me and see if that works because I suck. And if I hit, maybe other Tolos will start using the old ChatGPT. Hey, Diesel.
You're all going to come up with the same answer.
That's true. All the same picks. What Dabo Sweeney had to say today in his weekly Tuesday presser. That's next. Clemson fans, did you get an opportunity to hear what Dabo Swinney said today in his weekly presser? I know 11 o'clock, a lot of you Tolos are working, you're busy, you have things going on. You might not get a chance to listen to what Dabo had to say, but in case you missed it, we have some audio, and we do this every Tuesday at 6 o'clock.
Before we get there, Cole, how did it work out when you asked ChatGPT for an upset pick?
I don't want to talk about it. Because now I've gone from hopeless to
no. You got to tell what happened.
Well, the first time it gave me South Carolina plus 9.5 over Missouri. However, Missouri and South Carolina do not play this weekend. So ChatGPT messed up there. And then the second time it gave me FAU or FIU or somebody in Florida that plays tonight, I believe, Diesel, and I can't take that game. So needless to say, my idea of using ChatGPT for the upset picks challenge.
So it said that you should take Florida Atlantic plus 14.5. Here's the problem. Florida International plays tonight, and they are plus 9.5 against a 5-1 Western Kentucky. But I told you wrong there. I told you that Florida Atlantic doesn't play this weekend. That's incorrect because they moved conferences. I didn't realize that. Florida Atlantic, though, unfortunately, are 21.5 point dogs at South Florida.
So what does ChatGPT, what does it know?
It doesn't know anything.
You can't do it.
You have to spend so much effort fact-checking ChatGPT to make it not worthwhile.
I'll have to screenshot some of the games on ESPN.com and then send it to ChatGPT, Diesel, in order to get something valuable.
I think you do. I think you have to screenshot a page and say, hey, of these visible games, which is the most, but then again, it's trying to use AI to analyze a screenshot with a lot of information.
How can AI be so smart but so dumb? Like all you have to do is go look at this week's schedules. JB says, I've been playing the upset pick challenge since it started 5 or 6 years ago, and the highest points I've finished with is 18. So here's my problem before we get to Dabo Swinney. I was talking to a buddy of mine last night about this. The reason I hate gambling, but I love Prize Picks, by the way, is I hate losing, Diesel. I hate to lose. It pains me to lose. And I hate this upset picks challenge because I suck at it and I lose every week and I cannot stand to lose.
But here's the thing. I know you make smart decisions. I know that you think hard about these games.
It's just so frustrating.
It is.
It's so maybe it's part of like how we're wired as men. We can't stand to be wrong. And I can't stand to not be good at something.
I think what's more frustrating is that, other Tolos, for example, Kevin Bugs, messages in on the stream and he says, I'll give you my strategy when the season is over. Kevin, you don't have a strategy.
I think it's all luck.
You don't have, it's 100%.
I think this is all luck.
It's 100%.
That's what losers say, at least. Right? And you know what? To be fair, there are a lot of things in my life, Diesel, that I'm not good at. And I mean a lot. But you know what I don't do? I don't do them. If I'm not good at something, I don't do it because it makes me mad.
That's why he hasn't talked to a girl in a while.
That's right. And this upset picks challenge, what are we doing here? I'm about to quit.
Anyway, what did Dabo have to say?
Dabo Swinney had nothing to say today. He did not give any information in his weekly press conference. We listen and react.
All right. Good morning, everybody. As y'all can probably tell, I got different attire on today. So selling shirts and
it's pink, by the way.
Raising money for a good cause this week. Always a great week here in Clemson, and really proud of the All In Foundation and just all the people who support it. And
I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, if that's okay.
Awesome to be a part of it and help a lot of people with their calling and their causes that they're all so passionate about. So very thankful for that. And our ladies clinic is a big partnered with the Bon Secours St. Francis Foundation and the Pearly.
It's all important, by the way. It is important, but let's get to football.
Out in 2020, and then in 2022, the foundation committed.
All right, more foundation talk.
Service the.
Come on, Dabo, we're waiting.
4.5 minutes, by the way. Now, 5.5 minutes. This is no joke.
1 in 8 women in the United States.
And by the way, breast cancer awareness stuff, super important.
And,
I don't want to make light of it.
2025.
But now 6.5 minutes. Let's see if there's football discussed.
Are you a football coach or are you a spokesperson for a hospital system?
But it's men as well. So definitely something that we've tried to really make a difference in the past, 16, 17 years. And we're going to continue to do so.
We're 9 minutes in, by the way.
I just wanted to kind of start with that and set the tone with that.
You did.
It's going to be an awesome weekend in the Valley.
Here we go.
It's good to get back home.
Here we go.
We've been gone a while, we've not played well at home. And so it's our big goal this week is to play well at home. And we have not done that. So we've got to get back to, playing like we're capable of playing, here in the Valley.
Let me ask you this real quick. Clemson has not played well at home. Do sometimes you just so happen to have your bad games when you're playing at home? Or do you believe, Diesel, that for whatever reason, Clemson's just not playing well at home this year? Do you believe that it has something to do with the routine of going on the road, or are we reading too much into this? They hadn't played well at home, but they haven't. They haven't played well at home, right?
I don't know. I mean, have you ever heard of a major college football program having a home field disadvantage?
Yeah, Clemson.
Yeah, it's like we're just too comfortable here. You
Right.
know, everything's too nice. It's too palatial. We need to go somewhere where the locker rooms suck and we're motivated. Hey, I'm sure somewhere on that campus nearby, maybe up the hill at what was Jervy, wasn't that the old gym up the hill that they used to dress at? That's why they came down the hill in the first place. Maybe there's some crummy old locker room in there. Maybe that end zone complex is just too nice and these guys are too pampered.
They're, by the way, 1-2 at home, right? They lost to LSU at home, lost to Georgia Tech on the road. They lost to Troy at home. Yeah, they're 1-2. They played 3 games at home, LSU, Troy, and Syracuse. The only game they won was Troy, and that was a 27-16 win. They did not look good. So it's right. He's right. It's been a while since they've been at home, almost a month. And they're 1-2 at home. For whatever reason, they haven't played well. Again, kind of going to what you said. I don't know why. I don't think sometimes, Diesel, there's not a reason for everything, right? Things just happen to – you and I can, have off day, whatever. It's off three times. They hadn't played well, but I don't know if you read too much into it.
Well, usually when I have a off day, there is a rumor, and it's because for whatever reason, Dewey has made his way into my dreams at night. So if I'm dreaming about Dewey – it messes up my entire day.
I get it. All right, more Dabo.
Our fans deserve that. It's unbelievable support here. And, we won the Troy game, but we didn't play well. And so, we need to continue the momentum. We've created some momentum these last couple of games by just, not playing perfect, but we've played well. And that's really the best thing that's come out of these last couple of weeks is just the guys seeing the results, from playing well. And they've prepared well, and they've earned the right to win by doing what winning requires. So I'm proud of that. But we got a tough challenge. SMU's a good football team. I didn't know Rhett well before he got into the league, but I really like him. I mean, he's one of the real good guys in college football. I think he's a really good coach, but we got a lot in common. Spent a good amount of time with him since he's joined this league, and just really have a lot of respect for him. Just who he is as a person, but also as a coach. I mean, he's done a heck of a job at SMU. Obviously, we had a knockdown, drag out down to the last play last year, and man, they got after us. I mean, we had some big plays. They had big plays, and we had a chance to put the game away. We didn't do it. They battled back. We were fortunate to win the game. But huge challenge. They're a really good football team across the board. Offensively, I mean, this is by far the most dynamic quarterback we've played. I mean, he's a problem. He is a really good player, and he's going to make some plays. I'd like to say you're just going to shut this guy down, but I have yet to see that happen. He's a really good player. He makes a lot of off-schedule plays. He'll let it rip. from every arm angle you can imagine, from over the top to sidearm to behind his back. He even ran a shovel behind his back. I mean, so like he's just a really good player. He's got a great feel for the rush lanes and, you know, when to step up and out and when to run around. And, you know, he's made a ton of big plays, again, that some are designed, some they get him out on the edge, and you have to cover these guys until the whistle is blown. I mean, you have to cover forever. Because he can create. So he's a really good player. I mean, I just got a lot of respect for him. You know, that they haven't run him a ton. I'm sure that will be a big part of their plan coming in against us. But they're fast, they're explosive, really good receivers all across the board. Same thing at running back, and they're committed to running the ball. I mean, I think that's a big thing with them. They're very patient and committed to the run game, and a big part of that is because they're a big play action team. You know, they want to throw the ball off the run action, lots of screens. If they're not having success inside, they get the ball on the edges and force you to have to be strong on the perimeter. You know, and it's just a lot of misdirection, a lot of eye candy that you have to process through at linebacker and safety with a bunch of pullers, and then here comes a screen backside, or it's some type of pop pass or whatever. The tight ends are really good players. They got 2 elite tight ends that they involve in a big way. So I just think they're a really good team across the board, good up front, well coached, and big challenge for us. And over on the defensive side,
real quick on this SMU game, he brought up the game last year, Diesel. We hadn't got to the questions yet, but I would like to have asked Dabo today if I were there. How much do you use last year's game to prepare for this year's game? Or, you know, because it's a totally different season, a different team, you've got a different team, they've got a different team, do you kind of not look at it at all, right? I would imagine, though, as a coaching staff, don't you have to kind of use last year's game a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly use it to scout personnel. You can use it to scout scheme. That is, again, assuming that the offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators are the same guys.
Yeah.
So I think you can use it some. Certainly, those guys are wanting to change what they do to stay ahead of the curve and stay on top of teams. So that means we can use last year's game as a basis, but then we have to augment that with this year's performances so far.
Yeah, it's tricky. I think you do. I think you do take some tape, to your point about scheme and personnel returning. That's obviously a big part of it. JB says they might be playing at home or playing bad at home because I've been at every home game. Maybe I've given the Tigers bad mojo by being there. JB's to blame. JB is to blame on that. All right, defensively, what's SMU look like?
You know, their 2 ends are really good pass rushers. They're top 10, I think, in sacks. And you know, they win with just beating their guy, but they'll also win with you know, some of their pressure that they'll bring. They're not a big blitz team per se, but they'll bring a lot of pressures, some sim pressures. So, you know, we've got to do a good job of communicating. They got a lot of twists and things like that. But, you know, number 1 and number 9 are really good players at end for them. So defensively, they're very sound. They're consistent in what they do, you know, out of their 4 down front. So, you know, again, a team that's coming in here undefeated in the league, and they got a tough loss to Baylor down to the last play, and a tough loss to TCU. So undefeated in the league, and you know, obviously they're trying to get back to Charlotte, and we're playoff football every week. You know, we're fighting for our life every single week, and so it's a big game for both teams, and look forward to competing against them in the Valley. So excited about it, and hopefully raising some money as well for a good cause.
I guess you mentioned playing well at home. I mean, has that been one of the more disappointing parts of this early season, considering how dominant these guys were at home?
Yeah, we've stunk. I mean, we've lost 3 out of our last 4 games at home. I know last year's a different team, but this team, we've not done well. I mean, you got to give a good team. LSU's a good team. I mean, it's not like they stink, but we had a chance to win the game and didn't make some of the plays that were there. We didn't play well offensively, mostly in that game. And then the Syracuse game, we just didn't even start playing defense to the third quarter. Again, give them credit. But, yeah, we really didn't play well in any game until North Carolina. Collectively, as we've had some players play well every week. It's just been, kind of, all right, Tag, you're it. So we just haven't played well as a team. And so, but they've had 2 good games, and they've played really well, complimentary football. And so now we gotta, we've gone from Chapel Hill to Chestnut Hill. Now we're back on the hill, and we need to keep playing well.
Oh gosh, I really wish Cole. God, that was
cringy.
That was cringy, Dabo. Yeah. Hey, it's creative. I'll give him that. Just God, you and I have both been pretty critical many times about the way that the Clemson media asks Dabo questions, and that last question is, first one out of the gate. First question, how disappointed are you in da da da? And Dabo, of course, is going to give that answer that he's probably given 3 or 4 times over the past couple of weeks about the way this team started. I really want the media who interviews Dabo Swinney to start asking specific questions. Like, you can ask an open-ended question that's a little more pointed than how disappointed are you, right? It could be, hey, Dabo, what actionable steps did you take? How have you prepared differently for the last 2 games than you prepared for the 4 prior to that, where the performance was disappointing? That way Dabo can go into specifics as to whether or not they've changed anything. And he may say, we've changed nothing. We've prepared the same way every single week because we trust in our process and we believe in what we do. Or he could say, you know what, clearly what we were doing wasn't working. So here's how we've tweaked things. Here's how we've changed things. Here's how the locker room looks, feels, sounds, and smells different than it did the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, I'm with you. Diesel, you need to start a campaign. Diesel wants better questions.
Maybe I should just go down there and be in these press conferences.
Yeah, it's a long drive, though.
It is.
Especially if to be on the air, back here at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, if we could zoom in, God, imagine if we could zoom into those Dabo press conferences. When we come back, Cole, earlier today, we had a phenomenal guest on the show. I mean, it doesn't get any bigger than this. Jay Paterno, the son of Joe Paterno, Penn State head football coaching legend, and now a member of the Penn State Board of Trustees. As things have gone completely crazy up there, we talked to Jay about the decision to fire James Franklin and the process of hiring his replacement. You'll hear that next.
comment on Penn State, the firing of James Franklin, and a little bit more. Jay, as always, love talking to you, man. Appreciate your time this afternoon. Want to start very big picture for those out there listening today in the great state of South Carolina. When it comes to Penn State, James Franklin, they know the name Paterno. With you being in your position, can you go into a little bit of detail of what your current position is for those that don't know, and how much you have to do with obviously Penn State athletics now going forward in your current position?
Well, I coached for 22 years of college football, and I've since I'm on the board of trustees at Penn State. So we're not directly involved in the hiring and firing of coaches, nor should we be, but certainly involved in a lot of the decisions that go into the athletic department. So still at every game. I do a TV show up here called Nittany Game Week that covers Penn State every week. So very, very, very attuned into what's happening.
Jay, what was the split of voices from fans and boosters and the people that you've talked to that led up to the ultimate decision to let James Franklin go? I mean, obviously, we know his record against top 10 and top 25 teams wasn't stellar. It wasn't where Penn State fans want him to be. But you look at 35-plus wins over 3 years, that's nothing to sneeze at. And there's no guarantee whoever you hire gets you back to that exact same spot. So kind of where was the fan base as far as split of fans that wanted to keep him around and fans that wanted him gone?
I don't know if I can give you a statistical number, but, we're playing Oregon, number 3 in the country. Third quarter, late third quarter, early fourth quarter, we fall behind 17-3, and the student section start chanting "Fire Franklin," almost in unison. And you're sitting there going, we're in the middle of a game, a top 5, top 10 game, and we're done with plenty of time. We come back, we tie the game, we go to overtime, and everybody's all in again, and then we lose the game and they start again. We had a college hockey game here last week on Thursday night, and the other team scores a goal, and our fans start chanting "Fire Franklin." So it became this overwhelming thing. Now, that doesn't mean it's fair or it's earned or it's deserved, because I don't think it necessarily was. But as you mentioned, 35 wins the previous 3 years, and going 3-3, you start to say, I would think a guy that's won 35 games has earned the benefit of the doubt. But administrators and people in this day and age, they're reading the tea leaves all the time, and they're reading social media and getting Stratcom people to say X number of mentions are positive, negative, whatever. And they start to run their organizations based on that. And I don't think that's necessarily the way to be successful.
Jay, how much do you think the noise that you just talked about went into the actual firing of James Franklin?
Well, I think it had something to do with it. I don't think there's any question. Internally, I couldn't really tell you what the team's mentality was like or whatever it may be. But, this was a team that got behind Oregon and played hard to get back in it. A team that really came out and didn't start the game off very well against UCLA, was down 20 and got back within a score. So this wasn't a team that had just kind of mailed it in. I think the reality was, despite the expectations in the offseason, this was a team that was, if you look at, there were 3 really close wins last year. They were every bit as close to being 8-4 as they were to being in the national championship game. And some of it is, I think, people overestimated how talented this roster was. It's talented. But, when I looked at, the expectations for what the offensive line would be, the running backs, all that kind of stuff, they were not performing at that level. Coming into the Oregon game, when you look at the non-conference schedule, they were not performing at a very high level. And some of that, that is really ultimately what undid the whole thing.
Talking to Jay Paterno, Penn State Board of Trustees member. Maybe you've heard his last name a time or two. Jay, right now, yesterday, Cole and I were kind of ranking the available jobs in college football, and it's right now Penn State is in a category of its own. After that, there's a fairly significant drop off to the other coaches or other teams that are looking for coaches. Back-to-back national championship winning conference, great fan base, great support, big time changes coming to the stadium there. What if, though, another elite job comes open in the coming days and weeks, like a Florida job. A lot of people think Billy Napier is kind of right there on that edge too. Does that affect the speed at which Penn State needs to make a decision, or is Penn State's brand and this opportunity so strong that you feel like you can take your time?
I think the thing that's accelerated this morning, I think, is the December signing day. So now everybody's afraid that, I got to keep my recruiting class together. So if we're going to make a move, let's make this move now. And then we can get a coach in place that can keep the class that we've got committed here. But the problem is at a place like Penn State or a place like Florida that would come open, the kind of coaches you want to go get are likely at other schools having very successful seasons and who do not necessarily want to walk away from their team when they're in the middle of a potential playoff run or whatever that may be. So that becomes really, really problematic in terms of where we are. And I think part of the reason that this may have happened sooner than later is the idea that let's go grab somebody because Florida that job may come open and we don't want to be competing with them for this.
That's so interesting, Jay, because ultimately I think you're exactly right. The timing is big, and every decision made, especially at that high of a level, timing is very important. You mentioned keeping the recruiting class together. You mentioned December and that window, that period coming up very soon. How do you believe the ones making this decision will weigh waiting to try to get one of those guys that you talked about that still may be coaching versus the urgency of getting someone in now? And I guess the second part of that question is that interim tag. How important is it for that interim to be able to keep that recruiting class together?
Yeah, I mean, no matter how, when you have the interim tag and you're trying to keep the recruiting class together and having been through it once, you can make all the promises in the world, but at the end of the day, they still want to know who the next coach is going to be.
That's right.
So I think there is certainly some pressure to try and get somebody sooner than later. But we'll see how that unfolds.
Jay, can you talk to me about the triggering of the 15-day transfer portal window immediately after a new coach is hired? That rule has changed from where it was before. It was once a coach is fired. Now it's once a coach is hired. It's kind of unprecedented, right? This is one of the first major openings since that rule was changed. How does that affect things? How are you guys kind of looking at how that will play out?
Well, I think that's going to impact it greatly. I mean, the first thing is that a coach got to do is not only keep the recruiting class together, but also figure out who's going to stick around and try and recruit the current team. Because if you bring in a guy who is if you have quarterbacks that aren't mobile, for example, and you're bringing a guy that's going to be running all kinds of spread zone read stuff, they're going to have to try and keep those guys from leaving or tell them, hey, look, you're not going to fit into what we do. So I think those things become important. All the while you have to meet with HR to sign your paperwork, and you got to get your office keys and all these other things and have a press conference. And there's so many things that go into it now. So it becomes really tough to do all those things.
Jay, when you talk about the decision that was made, and by the way, we're joined by Jay Paterno right here on The Fan Upstate. When you talk about the decision that was made over the weekend in the firing and the dismissal of James Franklin, how much of a risk do you think that is? We all know there's a risk involved in hiring a new coach anytime you do so. But when you talk about a guy who, granted, has had some heat on the back end of his career, but when you look at the stability that he brought to Penn State, I mean, it's unprecedented. How much risk do you think was involved for those that were having to push that red button? How would you weigh that risk?
Oh, I think there's a tremendous amount of risk because there's no guarantee in any of this. You may have had conversation with 2 or 3 guys that maybe you think are interested in the job, but until they take it, you don't know what you're going to get. Number one. Number two, everybody wants to fire their coach, but when you sit down and say, well, who do you want to hire? Now, all of a sudden, they're not this guy, somebody wants this one, somebody wants that one, somebody wants you to go, dangle $15 million a year in front of a guy like who's retired, like Nick Saban or Urban Meyer, and, all those things. And even if you got somebody like Nick Saban, then you still have some fans that say he's too old. He doesn't understand players these days. He won't be successful. So, I mean, there is risk in no matter which way you go. And the devil that sometimes and most times is better than the devil that you don't know.
Jay, you mentioned something there I want to follow up on, maybe already having someone in mind. do you believe, and I know you can't go into specifics, but do you believe the magnitude of this, with Penn State being one of the larger brands in all of college football, that when you guys make a decision like this to let go of James Franklin, you already have to have some sort of word, some sort of commitment, some sort of back channeling interest that the person that maybe you're interested is in, the person that you're interested in is interested in your job. Therefore, that gives you a little bit more confidence to be able to kind of rip the Band-Aid off?
Well, I think no matter what, every athletic director who's worth their salt has in their drawer somewhere. I mean, not obviously not in a drawer, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They've all got short lists. In case if my coach leaves or abruptly quits or says I've had enough, whatever it may be, or gets hit by a bus, whatever it may be, they've got a couple people they think would be good fits for them. And if you don't have that, then you're probably not doing your job.
Yeah.
But there's also, once you have that short list, there are also some other names that'll pop up over the course of a search that you go, oh, I hadn't thought of that guy. I thought of that guy. So, we'll see how it unfolds. But certainly I would think that there was some idea as to who they'd be interested in. Even my dad in his last year, when he knew he was going to retire a year and a half out, he told that, he met with the AD and met with the president of the university. And they came up with a list of 4 or 5 guys that he would like that they all thought would be appropriate.
Talking to Jay Paterno, part of the board of trustees for Penn State University. Coaches always say the right thing in these situations. I'm thinking of the Matt Rule press conference where he says, some iteration of I'm focused on my school. I'm focused on the team that we have to play this week. Do you ever get, a little quiet chuckle? I know you have to put on the poker face, but a quiet internal chuckle when a guy that your school is reaching out to is saying, quote unquote, all the wrong things to you publicly?
Well, I don't know who we've reached out to, so I can't guess as to who is or isn't being clever. I do know that at one point I was asked by a group of student journalists. There was a rumor that I interviewed for a job somewhere else, and I had. And the student asked me if I'd interviewed he said, I read somewhere that you may have interviewed at such and such a place. And I said, well, you can't believe everything you read. And that's all I said. And they took that as a no. And I was like, all righty. We've clearly failed our journalism students at Penn State, but I got away with one. And that's kind of how you watch these things. And, the interesting thing is it's as much what they don't say as what they do say.
So with that being said, I know you may not can comment in depth on this, but if the decision were left up to Jay Paterno, who do you look at as a good fit for Penn State?
I don't even want to go there. I want someone who understands what this place is about, what it means academically, what we want our kids to do academically, what our fan base expects. We want that blue-collar, hardworking mentality that's always been successful here. Because, look, if I mention somebody, somebody's going to say a trustee at Penn State mentioned these 3 guys, and now they're going to get asked at this press conference. And some of these guys I know, some of them, and then all of a sudden I'll get a call like, hey, what'd you put me in that bind for?
Yeah.
So I'll leave it at that.
I knew you wouldn't be able to. I just thought I'd ask anyway.
Yeah. Oh, you got to ask. Wouldn't be doing your job if you didn't ask. And now that you know my trade secret of avoiding answering questions, then you know what I just did there.
Jay, how do you feel about, the ability of the interim coaching staff's ability to keep a large portion of this roster together? You alluded to it earlier, a lot of talent on this team, a top 5 team at one point in this season. How much of that do you think you're going to be able to retain? Maybe it's too early to answer that question. And how much of a selling point is that to whoever may be coming in after Coach Franklin?
I think they'll do a good job. Terry Smith, who's the interim coach, is a guy I played with at Penn State years ago. He's been around a long time. He's been, I think, one of the few guys that's been here since James got hired. I think they'll do a good job, some of those guys in that staff. But it becomes difficult because while you're trying to retain the roster, you also have to start thinking about where am I going to go next, because I may not have a job here. But I think they'll do a good job. And I think, unfortunately for them, the really hard part of the schedule is coming up. With 6 games, 4 of them on the road. They go to Iowa this week. They have an off week. They go to Ohio State the next week. They have Indiana after that. and then they've got at Michigan State, Nebraska, and at Rutgers. So there is some tough. There are no gimme pucks left on this schedule.
Fans will always focus on the winning percentage against the top 10 teams at institutions like Penn State, but can you give us some tangible ways in which the program is better off after James Franklin had his tenure there?
Well, I think when he first got here, there were some real challenges, and I think this team has had a lot of success. People are used to that kind of success, and I think that's the baseline now. The baseline will be that 10-win season, 11-win seasons. You're going to have some 9-win seasons sprinkled in there because that's just the reality of the game. But I think that we're back to where people, the fact that people are mad that we're not doing certain things is a good sign. Good sign. So,
Jay, before we'll
look forward to see what happens.
Before we let you go, you mentioned the journalism class that puts you on the spot. I mean, I guess I'll keep it up and continue to put you on the spot here. I mean, you did coach for 17 years. Did you have a 0.00001% interest at all? I mean, you coached at Penn State. You're a Penn State guy.
Oh, you mean now?
Yeah.
Oh. Look, if they called me tomorrow and said we really need you because everybody else turned it down, yeah, I'd go do it.
I just
had
a
job
thought.
Right now I would go seek as manager of the Red Sox. I think that looks like a cool game.
Jay, you're the best man.
Well, you did ask, so I did give you an honest answer
right.
on that one.
Hey, Jay, would you have pulled Blake Snell going into the ninth last night?
No.
There you go.
I literally said, what are they doing?
Yeah, me too.
Because the last pitch he threw, I went, what was that?
Yeah,
definitely would not have pulled him.
Jay, so
you
much.
You guys have a good one, man.
You too, man. Appreciate you as always. Jay Paterno right here on the Fan Upstate. Really good stuff there on Penn State, James Franklin, and, man, just the entire, not the search process, but what I guess the message is. And Diesel, there's so much to unpack from that interview. Mm-hmm. I know we have Daily Wires coming up, but my gosh, a lot to unpack from that and what he said. And I did kind of put him in a tough spot asking who he would think would, who he thought would be an ideal fit. But I also, when he said, I'm not going to get into that, he also continued to talk. And he said a Penn State guy who understands what it means to, win at Penn State. And that's Matt Rule.
That is Matt Rule.
I don't know. Again, not reading too much into it, but, and then the whole part about contacting somebody before you fire James Franklin, like that's a huge part of it, man. Huge part of it.
Yeah, it's weird how they do it. It's kind of like you want to know that the girl's going to say yes when you ask her to the dance before you actually ask her. So you ask her friend, ask that friend if she would go with you to the dance. And then if she says no, then, well, you never actually asked in the first place. But a fascinating conversation with Jay Paterno.
closing out the Tuesday, the Tolo Tuesday show right here.